Los desafíos globales requieren transformaciones profundas en la forma en que producimos, comercializamos y consumimos nuestros alimentos. La FAO trabaja día a día junto a sus socios y aliados en los sistemas agroalimentarios de América Latina y el Caribe. Te invitamos a conocer proyectos que dejan huellas temáticas como educación alimentaria, economía circular, digitalización rural inclusiva, acción anticipatoria y mucho más. Regístrate y participa en la Feria FAO Transforma 2024. Construyamos juntas y juntos un futuro mejor. Global challenges require profound transformation in the way we produce, market, and consume our food. FAO works daily alongside its partners and allies to improve agri-food systems in Latin America and the Caribbean. We invite you to discover projects that make a difference in topics like food education, circular economy, inclusive rural digitalization, anticipatory action, and much more. Register and participate in the FAO Transforms 2024 Fair. Let's build a better future together. Los desafíos globales requieren transformaciones profundas en la forma en que producimos, comercializamos y consumimos nuestros alimentos. La FAO trabaja día a día junto a sus socios y aliados para transformar los sistemas agroalimentarios de América Latina y el Caribe. Te invitamos a conocer proyectos que dejan huella en temáticas como educación alimentaria, economía circular, digitalización rural inclusiva, acción anticipatoria y mucho más. Regístrate y participa en la Feria FAO Transforma 2024. Construyamos juntas y juntos un futuro mejor. global challenges require profound transformation in the way we produce, market, and consume our food. FAO works daily alongside its partners and allies to improve agri-food systems in Latin America and the Caribbean. We invite you to discover projects that make a difference in topics like food education, circular economy, inclusive rural digitalization, anticipatory action, and much more. Register and participate in the FAO Transforms 2024 Fair. Let's build a better future together.
Buenos días, sean
Good
bienvenidos y
morning.
bienvenidas a la tercera
May
edición
all
de la
you
feria
be
FAO
welcome to the
Transforma
third edition of
2024,
FAO
un
Transforma Fair
evento de experiencias
2024,
inspiradoras de América
an event
Latina y el
of
Caribe.
inspiring
Mi nombre
experiences
es
of
Antonia
Latin
Barca
America
y
and the
tendré el
Caribbean.
placer de
My name is
acompañarles
Antonia
a lo largo de
Barca, and I
estas
will
2
have the
jornadas
pleasure
llenas de
to
aprendizaje e
accompany you throughout
inspiración.
these 2 days full of
Es un
learning and
honor contar con la
inspiration.
presencia de
It's an honor
todas y
to
todos
have all
ustedes
of you
y
here,
extendemos un
and
especial
we extend
saludo
a
a las
special
autoridades,
greeting to the
socios de
authorities,
cooperación y colegas de la
cooperation
FAO que nos
partners, and
acompañan el
FAO
día de hoy.
colleagues who are here with us
Este
today.
evento se ha convertido en
This
un pilar
event has become a
fundamental para
fundamental pillar
el
for
intercambio
the
de experiencias y
exchange of
conocimientos en
experiences
nuestra región.
and knowledge in our
Nos
region.
complace ver cómo
We
la
are
gestión del
pleased to see
conocimiento de la
how
FAO se
knowledge
fortalece
management at
gracias a su
FAO is strengthened
colaboración.
thanks to your
Queremos
collaboration.
expresar un
We want to
agradecimiento
express a
especial a
special
nuestros
thanks
socios de
to our
cooperación,
cooperation
cuyo apoyo es
partners whose support
fundamental
is
para llevar
essential
adelante
to carry
nuestras
out our
iniciativas.
initiatives.
Agradecemos
And we
también
also
a los
like to
equipos
thank the
técnicos,
technical
cuyo
teams whose
incansable trabajo y
tireless work
dedicación
and
hacen
dedication
posible la
make the
implementación de los
implementation of
proyectos
the
que hoy
projects
celebramos.
that we
Sin
celebrate.
lugar a dudas, su
Without a
compromiso y
doubt, your
colaboración
commitment and
son la piedra
collaboration
angular
are the
sobre la cual
cornerstone
construimos un
upon
desarrollo
we
sostenible
build the
para todas
sustainable
y todos.
development for all.
Permítanme ahora compartir con
Allow me
ustedes
to
el
share with
desarrollo
you
de
the
este evento,
development of this
que se
event,
llevará a cabo
which
en
will
2
take place
jornadas.
over 2 days.
La primera jornada,
The
que
first
tendrá
day,
lugar hoy, se
which will
extenderá
take
hasta las
place
13
today,
horas,
will extend
durante la cual
to 1
conoceremos
o'clock,
4
during which we
experiencias
will learn
enmarcadas en
4
2 áreas
experiences from
estratégicas
into
de la
strategic
FAO:
areas of FAO:
mejor producción
better
y mejor
production
nutrición.
and better nutrition.
Antes de iniciar estas
Before
presentaciones,
starting these
contaremos con una
presentations,
charla
we will make
inaugural
a
que
keynote
marcará el inicio de
speech
nuestras
that will mark
reflexiones.
the beginning of our
La segunda
reflections.
jornada se
The
celebrará mañana,
second day will be
miércoles
held
4 de
tomorrow,
septiembre,
Wednesday,
donde
September
tendremos
4,
6
where we
experiencias
will explore
transformadoras
6
bajo los ejes
transformative
de un mejor
experiences
medio ambiente,
under the
una
axis
vida
of better
mejor, y
environment, a
además
better
contaremos
life,
con un bloque
and
sobre
we will
soporte
have a
institucional.
block on institutional
Les
support.
recuerdo además que el
I
evento se
also
está
remind
transmitiendo
you
en
that
vivo
the
a
event is
través de
being
el canal de
broadcasted
YouTube de la
live
FAO
through the
y la
FAO
página
YouTube
de FAO
channel
Americas.
and on
Los
Twitter,
invitamos a
FAO
interactuar en
Americas.
Zoom y a
We
dejar
invite you
sus
to
preguntas en las
interact on Zoom and
transmisiones,
to leave
que
your
serán
questions in the
respondidas en los
broadcast,
momentos
and
asignados.
we will answer at
Sin
the
más
assigned
preámbulo,
times.
demos
Without
inicio a este
further
evento.
ado, let's
Para
start
ello,
this event.
les invito
For
a
that,
escuchar las palabras
I
de la
invite you
señora
to
Eve
listen the words
Crowley,
of Ms. Eve
representante
Crowley,
regional
FAO
adjunta de
representative
la
of
FAO para
Chile
América Latina
and
y el
Deputy
Caribe.
Regional Representative of
Señora
FAO
Eve,
for Latin
muchas
America
gracias
and
por
the Caribbean.
acompañarnos y sea muy
Ms.
bienvenida.
Eve, thank
La
you much
palabra es
for
suya.
being here with us, and you have the floor.
Estimadas y estimados
Dear
participantes,
participants, please receive my warmest welcome to the third edition of FAO Transform. We are in a crucial moment in humanity with less than 6 years to reach the ODS of the Agenda 2030. Each decision and action that we take now will determine our environment and of the future generations. Today, we face an alarming reality, the fight against hunger and world malnutrition. According the following recent information, between 713 and 750 million people could have suffered famine in 2023, while millions were not able to access a healthy diet in 2022. This crisis is even more acute in the low-income countries, where 71.5% of population does not have an adequate nutrition. Latin America and the Caribbean have reached important advances, but still far away of reaching the ODCs to fight hunger. It's estimated that 41 million people could have suffered famine in 2023, with agree which affects more than 28% of the region. In this scenario, our mission is clear: to keep working to have agricultural systems that are more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable, aiming to have a better production, a better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life without leaving anyone behind. This is the purpose that guides each step that we take, and together we trust that today's action can make a difference for future generations. I would like to ask a question. What is the difference between change and transformation? It's like a difference between technology and women's soccer football. The adoption of technology to help the goalies to see if the ball crossed the line did not alter the rules or the structure of soccer, while the feminine soccer has transformed, redefining who plays, who works in soccer, how do they market it, who sees it, and its cultural relevance, besides contributing to gender equality and an improvement of opportunities for women in other sports. Change modifies something within a specific framework, while a transformation remodels the framework and its impact. So I hope that the the conversations today we can focus on transformation. So with this objective, the fair is a space to exchange learning around transformative experiences and that we can replicate at regional level. We recognize the knowledge of the organization and the territory as an invaluable capital built through reflection and collaboration. Thanks to this, we can keep working and improving the quality and the efficiency in technical assistance and the support that FAO provides the countries. None of this would be possible without the support of our partners. Your cooperation helps us to advance firmly towards a greater food security, improving the livelihoods of people, and strengthening the transformation of agricultural systems in our region. I deeply thank all the present people, the resources, the government authorities, representatives of the public and private sector, technical teams. Your commitment is essential to guarantee a future where food security and nutrition could be a reality for all. We invite you to open yourselves to new ideas and allow that knowledge in these days will inspire you to reflect in a profound manner in the complex current state, to be able to anticipate and transform our organizations is urgent. It's not only to react to the present challenges, but to be strategic, to have a prospective vision, to create capacities that will allow us to build a sustainable world. The opening remarks that will be given by Dr. Cristina Zurbigen will take us through this process to anticipate to complex scenarios. Throughout the fair, we will have the opportunity to deepen in this reflection through the different panels and projects that we will present. Today, the panels of better production and better nutrition, we will know different initiatives of different corners of the region that have created transformation in the governance of our resources, in the insertion in the markets, the development of capacities, and circular economy. Tomorrow, we will invite you to keep reflecting in the panels of better environment, a better livelihood, to know projects that are generating important progress in the conservation of biodiversity, climate action, anticipatory action, and rural life. Finally, we invite you to see the platform that FAO has created to provide a better institutional support in tomorrow's last block. Before finishing, I would like to go in the difference between change and transformation. To transform our systems is not only a change in practices, it's a fundamental modification in the structure itself of the systems, in the power relations, in our priorities, economies, and livelihoods. It implies to take advantage of technology and to change governance and institutions with an inclusive focus centered in youth and gender equality where no one is left behind. So I invite you to be an active part of these conversations and contribute with your ideas and to take advantage of this unique opportunity to question, innovate, and commit with the future that all of us that we desire to build. Thank you very much.
Queremos expresar nuestro
We want to
más
express
profundo
our
agradecimiento a la
deep
señora Eve Crowley
thanks
por
to
sus
Ms. Eve
inspiradoras
Crowley for
palabras.
his inspiring
Sus
remarks.
reflexiones no
Her
solo nos
reflection
invitan a
not only
considerar los
invite us
desafíos
to
críticos que
consider the
enfrenta nuestra
critical
región en
challenges that
materia de
our
seguridad
region
alimentaria y nutricional,
faces,
sino que también nos
but
motivan a
also
abordar
it
estos
motivates
retos
to
aprendiendo de las
address these
lecciones y
challenges,
conocimientos de los
learning
proyectos que
the
presentaremos en
lessons
estas
and knowledge in the
jornadas.
projects that we will
Ahora
present in these
procederá
days.
a
Now,
presentar a nuestra
we
ponente
will
magistral
proceed
del
to
día de hoy,
introduce our
la doctora
keynote
Cristina
speaker, Dr.
Zúrbriga.
Cristina Zurbia.
Cristina es doctora en ciencia
Cristina is
política
doctor in
por
political
la Universidad
science
de
by
Eberhard
the
Karls de
University
Tübingen,
of
Alemania,
Oberhard
y
College of
actualmente es profesora en
Tübingen,
la
Germany,
Facultad
and
de
is
Ciencias
currently a
Sociales de la
professor in the
Universidad de la
Faculty of Social
República en
Sciences
Uruguay.
at the University
Sus
of Republic in
investigaciones se
Uruguay.
enfocan en la
Her
gobernanza,
research
redes de
focuses on
políticas
governance,
y
policy
agricultura
networks, and
sostenible.
sustainable
También
agriculture.
es miembro del
Her
Centro
research,
Nacional de
she's also a
Síntesis
member of the
Socioambiental
National
de la
Social and
Universidad de
Environmental
Maryland
Synthesis
y
of the
forma parte del
University of
Consejo
Maryland.
Asesor
It's part
y
of
del
the
Comité
Advisory
Ejecutivo
Council
del
and
Instituto
Executive Committee
Sudamericano de
of the
Estudios
South
sobre
American
Resiliencia
Institute
y
for Resilience
Sostenibilidad.
and Sustainable
Hoy, la doctora
Studies.
Zurbriggen nos
Today,
hablará sobre el
Dr.
desafío de
Surbigen will
desarrollar
talk us about the
capacidades
challenge about
anticipatorias en
developing
las organizaciones
anticipatory
para un
capacities
futuro sostenible.
in organizations for
Cristina, ¿nos
sustainable future.
escuchas?
Cristina, can you hear us?
Bueno, buenos días a todos y a
Yes, good
todas.
morning to all of you.
Muchas gracias por la invitación
Thank you very
a
much for the
participar
invitation to
esta
participate
actividad.
in
Voy a
this
compartir con
activity.
ustedes la
I'm going to share
presentación.
with you the presentation.
Bueno, un problemita técnico.
I'm sorry, there are some technical issues, but can you hear me?
Sí, sí, Cristina,
Perfecto.
te escuchamos bien.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yo creo que vivimos, fue
I
muy
think that we
interesante
live,
el
it
inicio,
was very
porque
interesting, the
justamente
beginning,
vivimos
because we
tiempos muy
live
turbulentos.
in
Muchos
very
hablan de que
hard
tenemos
times.
tiempos de policrisis,
We
vivimos una
have
crisis política, una crisis ambiental,
political
una crisis
crisis,
alimentaria,
environmental crisis,
pero frente a esa
food
crisis
crisis.
podemos tener
And in this
una
crisis,
inacción
we can have an
o
inaction
avanzar
or
hacia
lack of
procesos
action
de
or
transformación.
to
Y para
move
mí siempre
to
ha sido
transformation
muy
processes.
inspirador
And for
Edgar
me, it has
Morin,
been very
que hace muy
inspiring,
poco
Edgar
publicó un
Morin,
libro
that he
acerca de qué
published a
lecciones
book about what
hemos
lessons
aprendido a partir
we have learned
de la pandemia. Y
from the
entonces él plantea
pandemic.
justamente que
So he
tenemos
speaks
una gran
about
necesidad en nuestras
that we
sociedades de
have a
avanzar hacia un
need
nuevo
to
modelo
move
de
to new
civilización que priorice
models
la
of
vida, la
civilization that gives priority
sostenibilidad
to
y la
life,
solidaridad.
sustainability,
Y
and
eso implica
solidarity.
que vivimos
And
en eras
this
de
implies
incertidumbre y
that we
tenemos que
live in
desarrollar
uncertainty
capacidades de
times. We need to
anticipación y
develop
cambiar radicalmente
a
nuestra forma de
radical
pensar y actuar,
change
¿no?
and
Que
how we
nos
think and
lleve
behave
justamente
that
a
will
un
lead us
futuro más
to
viable
a
para las futuras
future that is
generaciones.
viable for future
Y entonces,
generations.
justamente, ¿cómo
So,
abordamos esos
how do we
problemas
address these
complejos
complex
apostando a un futuro
problems,
creativo? Ya
thinking
en la
on
década del
future, a
70
creative
se
future? In the
planteaba que para abordar
70s,
la
they said
complejidad de los
that to
problemas, las
face the
estrategias
complex of the
tradicionales
problems,
de
the traditional
planificación y
strategies
eficiencia
of planning
basado
and
en la
efficiency
previsión
based
no son
in the
suficientes.
provision were
La
not
clave para
enough.
abordar los
The
desafíos
key
del
to address
siglo
these
XXI
challenges
no es
in the
encontrar
21st
una
century
solución
is not to
rápida,
find a
sino
quick
tratar de
solution,
redefinir el
but to try
problema,
to redefine the problem,
contextualizando, y una
to
condición
having a
clave
context,
es
and
a
a
partir
key
del
is
involucramiento de
involving
múltiples actores
multiple
con diversas
stakeholders with
interpretaciones y
different
perspectivas del
interpretations and
problema, y ahí
perspectives.
vamos a encontrar
And
las
there we
soluciones
are going to
creativas a
find
los
the
problemas que
creative
nos afectan.
solutions to the problems that
Eso
we're
nos
facing.
llevó con mi
This
colega
led us with my
Silvana
colleague
Churi a
Silvana
preguntarnos,
Churi
bueno, ¿cómo
to ask
podemos
ourselves,
actuar,
well, how can
intervenir
we
y
act and
transformar? ¿Qué
intervene
nuevas
and
formas
transform?
podemos generar
And how can we
de
generate
usar nuestro
to
conocimiento
use our
para la
knowledge
acción y la
for the
transformación?
action
Eso
and
nos llevó a
transformation?
generar una
And this
plataforma
led us
experimental
to create an experimental
que tratamos
platform
de generar un
that
modelo
we
para cómo
try to
podemos
create a
actuar
model so
colectivamente,
how when we
imaginar
can act
creativamente
in
futuros
as a collective
alternativos
and
y
imagine
con una
alternative
metodología
future
sencilla. Nosotros
and
le
with a
llamamos
simple
una metodología
methodology.
de
We call
innovación
it a
abierta, que se
methodology
adapte a
of
los
open
contextos, que sea
innovation that
fácil de
is
aprender
adapted
y que
to all the
sobre todo se
contexts, easy
centra
to
en
learn,
desarrollar
and it's centered in
capacidades de
developing
aprendizaje para la
capacities, learning
transformación.
capacitis
Bueno, ¿en qué
for
consiste
transformation.
esto? ¿Cuáles son los
So what
pilares
is
de
this?
este
What are the
proceso que
pillars
nosotros
of this process?
hace unos años?
Some
Y bueno,
years
trabajamos
ago,
con
we work
organizaciones,
with
trabajamos con ONG,
organizations,
trabajamos
we work
también
with
con gobiernos,
NGOs, with
pero bueno, este es un
governments,
proceso de
and this
transformativo
is a,
donde
a
nosotros
transformation
utilizamos
process
determinadas
that we
herramientas y métodos, pero
use
más
different
importante, las
methods
propias
and
personas
tools.
que
But the
están en los
most important
procesos
thing is
de
that the
cambio y
people that are
transformación se apropien de
involved
la misma.
in the
Entonces
change
nosotros
should
empezamos
be
justamente
responsible
con
of
una
this.
comprensión, una
So
cuestión que es
we
clave, es cómo
began with something
entendemos el
that is key,
problema,
is how we
cómo
understand the
desarrollamos
problem,
una hoja
how
de
we
ruta
develop a
a
roadmap
través de una visión deseable,
throughout a
¿no?
vision
Creativamente, y
that
cómo
is creative, and
experimentamos
how do
y
we
adaptamos y
experience and
vamos
we
adaptando esa
adapt
intervención a través
that
de un proceso de
intervention
monitoreo,
through
evaluación
monitoring,
y de aprendizaje
evaluation,
que nos
and
permite
learning
retroalimentar el
that
proceso.
allow us to
Entonces,
feedback the
eso es lo que hemos
process?
trabajado
So
y eso
this
es
is
lo
what
que
we
yo voy
have
a centrar
worked
en
on,
nuestras
and this is where
capacidades.
I'm
O sea,
going to
desarrollar
center in the
capacidades de
capacities
anticipación
to
implica
develop
tener capacidad
anticipatory
de intervenir
capacities,
sistémicamente, capacidades creativas, capacidades de
capacity to
generación de
create,
conocimiento.
to
Bueno,
integrate
todas estas palabras
knowledge.
clave
All of
es
these
lo que quiero desarrollar.
keywords is
Lo
what I
primero de
want to
todo es
develop. The
qué
first
entendemos
thing
por
is what we
capacidad
do understand
anticipatória.
by
Yo creo que
anticipatory
esto es muy
capacities.
importante. ¿Por
I
qué
think this is
necesitamos
very
capacidad
important.
anticipatoria en
Why
estos
do we
momentos?
need
Porque vivimos
anticipatory
tiempos de
capacity?
incertidumbre, de diferentes
Because we live
y de formas de
uncertainty
incertidumbre.
times.
Una
One is of the uncertainties is the lack of provision. There are things that we cannot foresee, like COVID or a technological innovation. We also need to make decisions in uncertain processes because sometimes we do not have all the knowledge, not all the necessary data, but we need to make decisions. And the third uncertainty, it's very important, is that we all have different points of view of how to address and solve a problem. So we need to develop anticipatory capacities. The planning and anticipation is not the same. In the 90s, one was the planning to learn how to do the things better, but to anticipate is to generate new opportunities or know how to do new things. Anticipation implies the capacity to imagine, to prepare for different possible futures in a place of having a rigid plan. Is what gives us an orientation sense. And it's that capacity that allow us to generate creativity and innovation, to have a sense that is more proactive, creative, eh, instead of a reactive sense. So we asked ourselves, how do we generate all this? How we started to work with the communities, with the government in this. So I think here we use two methodologies, and I make about these methods of the future. There are multiple approaches and methods, but we always use this side because we have these tools to reduce uncertainty or to orient ourselves to the future. And the best well known are the forecast plans, what happened in the past. And this is what we use, for example, in how to predict the climate. This is different scenarios, but this does not help us to behave. Another important tool are the scenarios that are creative from narratives, and we can imagine different scenarios that are possible, production, more production, less production. But these two type of methodologies demand more knowledge and greater research teams. And we thought, well, what methodologies can we use that are more easy to use of open code that that the stakeholders can use and that are aimed for action. So the two methodologies that we used are the roadmaps, and we try to identify a vision. We work in an ecology of intervention, and we assess that. And we also work in other methodologies like the reflexive futures, that to think what the future exists in the potential of the present. The future is now. It's now, and now we find the seed for the future, and all the methodologies help you to find the seeds. We are all innovating. In agriculture, there are multiple practices that are innovative, many innovative practices. The key is how do we scale them up? How do we create an ecosystem? So these seeds guide us of the future that is going to come. So the greater in international, there are many communities that are working, and they are trying to introduce this anticipatory capacities, the capacity that an organization has to use information, imagine, and to actively prepare for the future through the co-creation process, to be prepared to find creative solutions, to be the emergent processes, to be able to change. And this anticipatory capacity is also important, that is it at social and collective levels. And also, not only to strengthen that anticipatory capacity, we need to create an anticipatory governance. How do we create an innovative ecosystem so these capacities can be adapted and evolve and expand? Having said all this, I think that a key question that we have arrived that to be able to introduce this creative capacity and this anticipatory capacity, it's important to think in a systemic way. And this is really hard because we come from a lineal thought, Cartesian thought. When we see a problem, we identify a solution. But what does this imply to intervene in a systemic way, to think in a systemic way? I have said that the first step when we have a problem, we have to reflect deeply in the problem, the different dimensions, economic, social, political, to put it in a context and to identify the interrelations. But above all, the most important and the most difficult to change is the mental models, the way how we see the problem. So the first step is the deep learning, is the co-creation and to build when a small group as an organization faces a problem, and how do I see it? I have made many exercises and many people think in the solution immediately, and they also think that the person with whom they work is also thinking on the same thing, and this is not so. So each one we have our own way. That's why it's important to go to the deep causes of the problem. And here I made an hypothetical exercise of what is to make a systemic thought exercise to go to the deep causes. For example, the lack of adaptation to climate change is affecting the resilience and affecting the food. 30% of the agricultural exploitations are lost. So from there, from the data of those numbers, I start to identify, well, what is the multiple structural, political, social causes, how farmers are leading on, what are they facing in climate change. But this is not enough. It's important to work in the discourse, in the perspectives, in the narrative. For example, a narrative, they have discussed that intensive and dependent agriculture is the way to ensure high yields and to satisfy the local and global demand. That narrative also stops us from finding creative solution to identify that there are other ways to produce, but also we can articulate one with another one, and that which practices are good, which are not, and how to discard myths. So it's not only that we have to work uh, looking at the cases, but what are the dominant discourses? And when we are able to identify that and change the narrative, is we're going to go to the deep changes. For example, we have done a very interesting work with FAO in Uruguay, the National Plan of Adaptation for the Agricultural Sector, and it was a very interesting process where in the definition of the problem and in all the process, a long process of 2 years, more than 900 people work. So it was the first stage that was the climate change, and it was very interesting to work with the rural producers. What did I understood by climate change? So we changed the title of climate variability. So the definition of the problem, the involvement of the stakeholders, and the deep causes is the first step, because the depth of the problem is supported by speeches, narratives. So a change in the paradigm means a change how we understand the world. This is why we work what is the problem, and not only with the problem map, but with the sectors, because it's key who is going to do this. We classify the stakeholders who will give the fighters, or we need to channel what stakeholders are going to accompany us in the change and to visualize the possible conflicts. And then we frame the problem to identify new areas and ways of working. And this is what we work in a roadmap. We identify a common vision of the problem. Where do we want to go? And then we come back to the present. We have ecologies of interventions and actions to be able to have a long-term change. We need many actions at different levels, but it's important to keep the trajectory, to have certain landmarks or actions that will lead us to the change, and always reflecting upon the actions that we are doing. That's why, to add to the anticipatory capacities, besides having the capacity to think in a systemic way, we need to create knowledge, which is the transdiscipline, different ways of generating knowledge. Academic knowledge, scientific knowledge is one way to generate knowledge, but we know that in the 21st century, to address all the problems, we need to have the integration of knowledge of the different disciplines, and we need transdiscipline to integrate knowledge and also to integrate, to have the local knowledge. And this is another big challenge, to have plural methodologies, integrating different ways to address, help us to know better the problem and have better information.
The other thing is the capacity of generative experimentation. Once we design a route map to intervene, we have to experience, we have to innovate, we have to use this creative process and know if this process was adequate or not. In Uruguay, we have different soil use plans that involved a lot of errors and lessons until the government implemented it. So this involves a capacity of experimenting. It's not a lab experimenting, but a generative experimenting with the stakeholders in the field. Additionally, we need to have the monitoring and assessment capacity. This is a key capacity that is not very introduced in these processes of transformation and change. And the learning assessment is not an assessment of outcome, but a system assessment. And based on an improvement of an action, I try to learn by involving the stakeholders and thinking if this vision that I had about how I could improve the practice and how this is working or not, and how, based on the assessment and monitoring, I can learn and change. And here we have two big schools which worked a lot on this process. On the one hand, we have the patent contribution about evaluative or training evaluation. It talks about the systemic, emergent, and adaptive approach. And instead of only assessing one program, we assess the system. We are loyal to our vision. We approach the reality, and we are improving the action. And the goal is to assess in order to inform and improve a program while it is in progress. Another important current that was analyzed and it was developed in the Banninga universities, especially with communities working in agri-food issues, is how to facilitate a process of collective learning and thinking of a course of action and how we learn from that process. So we have two big schools that we have adapted, and there is a lot of information about how we can have this more systemic and adaptative assessment, because the future is emergent. We can design a roadmap, but in the way we can have a lot of unforeseen things. We can have a technological change, as I said before. There can be new scientific knowledge. There may be uncertainty because of conflict of interests, political changes. So how we can adapt the intervention that we are conducting. This is a reflective monitoring in action approach in which we have a project of technicians, and they try to involve the key stakeholders. They try to identify patterns and dynamics. If they are using an irrigation technique, how can I improve that? But always we need to have the documentation process. All these capacities are necessary in order to develop an anticipatory capacity. Is not so much the method or the technique, it's how I start thinking in a systemic way, in an anticipatory manner, and also the leadership of communication and transformative creativity is another key element, because these are some of the works that we conducted during the pandemic, thinking about a sustainable agriculture. All these capacities and tools help to conduct reflective and collective practices to generate the future.
Cristina, quedan
Uh,
5 minutos, perdón.
Christina, we have
Solo para
5 minutes left just for you to consider. And this is the capacity of people and collective groups in order to let go old patterns and let new creative possibilities come into this society. That's why we come back to the manner in which we worked. We worked from the understanding of the problem within that context, because knowledge is textual, and we try to activate the key stakeholders who would be involved, what are their interests, how they are seeing the complexity, what conflicts they are identifying, because that's important in any transformation and change process. We have conflicts, and it's important through this co-construction. We have worked a lot on this issue, and to the extent we include and generate collectively a vision towards which we want to go, we are going to mitigate the possible conflicts, and that's not a consensus. There will always be some differing interests, but we have to generate common visions, and we can expand our capacity of reframing the problem. We talk about deconstructing in order to construct a new vision of the future and project actions in order to get closer to that process. We are not going to be certain. We have to forget about certainty. We have to accept uncertainty as part of our process of change and transformation. So here I let this information and a QR code, and we are going to have a space for Q&A.
Muchas gracias, doctora
Thank
Surbrien,
you
por
very
esta
much,
profunda
Dr.
exposición sobre el
Zurbriggen,
desafío
for
de
this
desarrollar capacidades
presentation
anticipatorias
about
en las
the
organizaciones
challenge
para un
of
futuro
creating
sostenible. Es
anticipatory
un tema muy
capabilities in
vigente,
the
teniendo en cuenta
organizations
que
for
a
a
fines de este
sustainable
mes se
future. It
celebrará
is a
la
very
cumbre del
important
futuro
issue.
en la sede
At
de
the
Naciones
end of
Unidas.
the
Un
month,
espacio para dialogar y
the
establecer
UN will
consensos sobre el
will
futuro que
hold the
queremos.
summit
A
for the
modo de seguir
future.
promoviendo esta importante
And
reflexión,
so,
me
in order
gustaría
to
dar
promote
paso
this
a las
important
preguntas del público.
thinking, I would like to
Cristina,
give the
tenemos
floor
15
to
minutos
the
para este
audience. We have
espacio, así
15
que vamos
minutes
a
for
considerar
this
solo algunas
space, so we're
preguntas.
only going to consider
Me
some
comentan que
questions.
Imaue pregunta,
Imawe is asking,
¿cuáles considera que son
what
las
do you
principales
think
barreras
are
que
the
enfrentan
main
las
barriers
organizaciones al
faced
intentar
by the
desarrollar
organizations
capacidades
when trying to
anticipatorias
develop
y qué estrategias
anticipatory
recomendaría
capabilities, and
para
what
superarlas y
strategies would you
fomentar una
recommend
cultura
to promote
organizacional
them
que valore y
and
promueva la
promote
anticipación?
an organizational culture accepting this anticipation? This is a very interesting question because one of the keys is how we generate anticipatory capabilities in the organizations. This involves a deep change in the way in which we organize ourselves. One first step, which is key, and I have worked in a process of organizational change, is to have interdisciplinary teams. So the first step in an organization, I should include different knowledges, and I will have a better capacity to introduce these practices. That's a key element. This also involves changes of the information systems. This is another key element. So include much more prospective information in the organizations. We have more information provided by numbers and data which are necessary, but in order to be able to make decisions in the 21st century, we need to have new knowledge structures. That's key. What I was saying, generating information. If I'm trying to improve a productive practice, I need to generate new information systems, new monitoring systems, and also documentation. In order to transform organizations, knowledge management is key, and that knowledge management involves a dialogue of knowledge. If I have a team who knows how to dialogue, I will be able to have information or knowledge from the outside of the organization.
Muchas gracias, Cristina.
Thank you very
Sin duda,
much,
elementos
Christina.
clave los
Without
que
a
nos
doubt,
señalas.
these are
Ahora me
key
gustaría pasar a
elements.
la pregunta
I
de
would like
Ángel,
to
que dice así:
ask
¿cómo
the
pueden
question
las
of an
capacidades de
angel. How
anticipación
the
desarrolladas dentro de una
anticipatory
organización como la FAO
capacities
impactar en la
developed
capacidad
in an
de
organization like the
anticipación de los
FAO have
sistemas
an impact
agroalimentarios
on
en
the
general para alcanzar
anticipation
un futuro
of
sustentable?
food systems in order to achieve a sustainable future? Well, this is a huge question, but one way is, well, I think FAO is working a lot on that direction. And I think that one way is generating capacities in the governments and organizations of these new methodologies of work. For example, working on a roadmap more than in a strategic planning will help us to have an impact in the organizations and in the government. Another way is strengthening all these cooperation and co-production processes. I always say that's well, in the presentation, I didn't highlight much the terms cooperation and co-creation because in Latin America, we have talked about co-production and co-creation as key elements of innovation. But I think it is not very well understood that in this process of co-production and co-creation, we have an ethical element. If I call the stakeholders to co-create, from the beginning, I have to warn whether that we're thinking about a problem or that they are participating in a transformation process. That is key. So how we introduce these new ways of thinking systemically. Other entities are also working actively on this. The key is to start thinking in a systematic way, and that involves a huge change at the level of the organizations and of individuals. So how we think in a systemic manner, how we can introduce new tools, we introduce uncertainty, the capacity of experimenting, we introduce the capacities of experimenting and learning. That involves multiple spaces of training and collective thinking of how we address the problems and later go to specific things at the level of an entity, an organization, an NGO, or a ministry.
Absolutamente de acuerdo, Cristina.
I totally
En este
agree,
sentido,
Cristina.
nos entrega ya la última pregunta para este bloque y
made
dice
the
así.
last question of
Estas
this block,
metodologías
and
que se
it goes like
exponen
this. These
permiten la aceleración de las
methodologies
transformaciones
presented
necesarias a
allow
distintas escalas.
acceleration of the transformations at different scales. Yes, because
A ver, no sé si te
well,
estás dando
I don't know.
escala, hay dos escalas, de tiempo
There are two
o escalas
scales of time or
de organizativo, por
at the
ejemplo, a nivel
level
de una
of the
pequeña
organization, at
nosotros a
the
nivel
level of a
mundial,
small
nosotros
organization.
esta metodología la hemos
This
utilizado a nivel de
methodology has
pequeños
been
grupos,
used
o
at the
sea,
level
un
of a
pequeño
small
grupo
group,
que quiere
a
diseñar
small
un
group
programa,
who wants to
¿no? O un
design a
proyecto,
program
o
or
a
a
nivel de una
project, or
organización,
at the
o a
level
nivel
of
de
an
un programa de gobierno.
organization
Lo
or
hemos
a
utilizado
government
en
program.
diferentes
We have used
escalas
this
y
at
que justamente
different levels, and
también hemos introducido esto a
we
nivel
have also
de la
introduced
universidad,
this at the level of the
justamente con el
university
objetivo de
with the
trabajar en
goal
grupos y
of
empezar
working
a,
in groups
a
and
pensar
starting to
sistémicamente,
think in a
a
systemic
pensar la
manner,
importancia que tienen los
thinking
marcos
about the
interpretativos de
importance
cómo
of
vemos lo que se llama
interpretative
modelos
frameworks,
mentales que
these
tenemos, cómo los
mental
cambiamos, cómo
models that we
reflexionamos y
have,
se
how
puede
we
aplicar
can
a diferentes
change them,
escalas,
that
tanto
can
a nivel
be
de un grupo
applied at
pequeño,
different
a
levels, at
nivel de una
the
organización
level of a
o
small
también
group, at
a
the level
nivel
of
de
an
un programa de
organization,
gobierno.
or a government program.
Bueno, agradecemos a la
Well,
doctora Cristina
thank
Surbrien por
you,
su valiosa e interesante
Christina
exposición.
Zurbrigg,
Hoy,
for this
Cristina nos ha
interesting
recordado que no se
presentation.
trata solo
Christina
de responder
reminded
a los
us
problemas del
that it's not
presente,
only about
sino de
solving the
prever y
problems of
preparar
the
nuestras respuestas
that we
para los
have
retos que
now,
se
but
avecinan.
prepare the
Les
response
invito a
for
que
the
con estas
upcoming challenges.
importantes reflexiones
With
en
these
mente
important
procedamos a
thoughts
conocer las
in
iniciativas
mind,
que
we would like to know about the
protagonizarán este encuentro.
initiatives that will
A continuación,
participate in this meeting.
exploraremos el
We
bloque
will
Mejor Producción,
explore the block
centrado en
Better
garantizar
Production,
modalidades de
focused
consumo y
on
producción sostenibles.
exploring
Descubriremos experiencias y
sustainable
prácticas
approaches.
innovadoras
We
que
will
están
discover
revolucionando la
innovative
producción de
practices
alimentos
that
al mismo tiempo que promueven la protección y
protect
sostenibilidad de nuestro entorno.
the sustainability
Comencemos,
of
por
our
favor, con el bloque
environment.
de
We're
Mejor
going to
Producción.
start with a better production block.
En línea con el marco estratégico de
In
la
line with
FAO,
the
el área de mejor
FAO
producción
strategic
busca asegurar
framework, the Better
prácticas
Production
sostenibles
area
y
seeks to
resilientes
ensure
en la
sustainable and
producción y
resilient
consumo de
practices in food
alimentos
production and
mediante
consumption
cadenas de
through
suministro
efficient and
eficientes e
inclusive
inclusivas
supply
a nivel local,
chains at local,
regional y
regional,
global.
and global
Este
levels.
enfoque
This
abarca la promoción
approach
de negocios
encompasses
sostenibles y
the
la
promotion of
revitalización de
sustainable
sistemas
businesses and the
alimentarios y
revitalization
mejora
of
la
food
integridad de la salud
systems
humana,
and the
animal
integral
y del
improvement of
ecosistema.
human,
El
animal, and
acceso justo
ecosystem health, and fair access to resources and technologies by smallholder producers. On this occasion, we will have the honor of learning about two transformative initiatives. In Venezuela, we will explore how FAO, with funding from the Central Emergency Response Fund, is improving the productivity and commercialization of small producers by strengthening their marketing capacities through social networks and digital media. We will then move to Chile to learn how the FAO, in collaboration with the Global Environment Facility and the Chilean Ministry of Environment, is promoting sustainable management of inanga fishing in the Aysén region, integrating traditional knowledge with modern conservation strategies. In this blog and the following blogs, we will begin with a video of the first project, followed by a 15-minute discussion with the respective guest panelists. We will then present the second project and have another 15-minute discussion. In closing, we will have a 5-minute space for final thoughts. Before we begin, I would like to extend our warmest welcome to the distinguished panelists who are joining us in this blog. We thank them for their time and willingness to participate in this meeting. Now, let us proceed with
La Amazonía venezolana es una región increíblemente biodiversa y multicultural, con una amplia variedad de artesanías, alimentos, conocimientos y prácticas ancestrales que la convierte en un espacio potencial para el desarrollo de economías locales sostenibles. Sin embargo, diversos factores han limitado su impulso. La FAO contribuye con la transformación de esta realidad a través de iniciativas que fortalecen las prácticas locales, crean medios de vida sostenibles, impulsan capacitaciones y promueven organizaciones comunitarias de ahorro y crédito para lograr nuevas formas de intercambio y generación de ingresos. Nuestro propósito es desarrollar estrategias para potenciar la economía familiar desde 3 sectores clave: artesanía, agricultura y apicultura en las comunidades indígenas Jibi, Huochuja y Curripaco del estado Amazonas. Luego del diagnóstico, desde la FAO trabajamos junto a las comunidades, procesos formativos y creativos para la promoción de sus artesanías y otros productos a través de una estrategia de mercado que permita utilizar las redes sociales como espacio de intercambio y comercialización. En la formación se incluyó la creación de materiales publicitarios como etiquetas, logos, empaques, identidad de marca, piezas gráficas, audiovisuales y redes sociales, formando a las y los productores de artesanías, agricultura y apicultura en publicidad y mercadeo. En colectivo, los participantes aprendieron a elaborar productos publicitarios, tanto gráficos como audiovisuales, inspiradores y con historia. Además, se instaló una estación creativa que cuenta con equipos tecnológicos para la producción de contenidos y manejo de las redes sociales que permitan promocionar, intercambiar y comercializar la producción tradicional de estos pueblos ancestrales.
Muy interesante la experiencia de Venezuela. Y para que podamos reflexionar en profundidad sobre los impactos, desafíos y lecciones que nos deja este proyecto, hoy nos acompañarán
we will have Milagro Vilovia, coordinator of the Emergency and Resilience Program of Venezuela, and Lara Ramírez Plazo, officer of the UN for Coordination of Humanitarian Issues. Welcome, both of you, and if you agree, we can start with the questions. Good morning, Milagros. Can you listen to me well? Yes, perfectly. Great. Thank you very much, Milagros. This project focuses on developing marketing and promotion strategies for handicraft, agriculture, and beekeeping products from indigenous communities. Could you share more details on how this focus is marketing and advertising is concretely contributing to promote the insertion of the small producers in the market. Yes, working with these sectors in the small holder communities had an important impact because they could generate more income and they strengthen their cultural identity because they promote products that reflect their traditions. And there were also practices that they made daily, but at a very small scale because they didn't have the input or the assistance to sell them. The strategy of including marketing included training for producers in the use of social networks, pictures of products, and selling techniques. This improved their capacities and the economy. And besides increasing their visibility, they could highlight the origin and their brands and the access to markets and fairs. And once we increase the sales and the demand of this product, the small producers not only had a better economic stability, but they could reinvest in their communities and generate more sustainable livelihoods.
Realmente muy interesante. Muchas
That's
gracias,
very
Milagro.
interesting. Thank you very
Ahora
much,
me
Milagro.
gustaría pasar a
Now
Lilia.
I would like to talk
Lilia,
to
¿cómo
Lilia.
estás?
Lilia, how are
Hola,
you?
buen día, ¿cómo están?
Hello, good morning. How
Todo
are
bien,
you?
muchas gracias,
Very
Lilia.
well.
UNSURF
Thank you,
ha
Lilia.
apoyado esta iniciativa innovadora que
USERV
combina desarrollo económico
supported
local con
this,
protección de
UNSERV
grupos
had
vulnerables en la
supported
Amazonía
this
venezolana.
initiative
Desde tu
that
perspectiva,
combines
¿por qué es
local economic
estratégico
development
invertir
with
en este tipo de
production.
proyectos que
From
integran
your
múltiples
perspective,
objetivos?
why is it
¿Y
strategic
cómo
to
se alinea
invest in
esto
this
con las
type of
prioridades
project that
estratégicas
integrates multiple
de
objectives? And
UNSURF?
how does this align with the
Bueno,
UN
primero que
Serve's
nada,
strategic
agradecerles a la
priorities?
FAO por la
Well, thank
invitación
you
a
very much
participar
for
en
the
este espacio.
invitation to this
Me place
space,
conocer el
colleagues from
valioso
the
trabajo que ha
FAO.
hecho
I would
FAO
like to
Venezuela,
recognize
que está
the
desarrollando FAO Venezuela en
work
el marco
developed
de la
by
implementación de este proyecto que hace
FAO
parte del
Venezuela
proyecto
in
SURF
the
Venezuela
implementation of this
2023.
project, which is part of the
En el
SURF
caso del proyecto
project
que ha
of
desarrollado
Venezuela
FAO con comunidades
2023.
indígenas con
In within the
especial
framework of
enfoque
this
en el
project, which
empoderamiento de
focuses
mujeres
on
indígenas,
empowerment
vemos
of
destacado y vemos
indigenous women,
como
we have
estratégico,
seen
¿sí?, el
as
enlace que hay entre
strategic
los
the link
sectores de
between the
protección y
sectors
de
of
seguridad
protection
alimentaria y
and
minería,
food
justamente tratando
security
de
and
atender las
livelihoods,
causas
trying to
estructurales
answer
que
to the
generan el riesgo de
structural
protección que
causes
están
that
afectando
generate the
de forma
risks
diferenciada,
that
especialmente a las
affect
mujeres,
in
y
different
también de
manners
forma diferenciada
or
a
in
las
a
comunidades
differentiated
indígenas.
manner
Quizás ustedes saben,
the
en el caso de
women
Venezuela, las
and the
comunidades
indigenous
indígenas
communities.
están
As you know, in Venezuela, the
asentadas
indigenous
en varios de los
communities
municipios que hacen
are
parte de
in
los
different
58 municipios
municipalities,
priorizados
which
por
are
el Plan de
part of
Respuesta
the
Humanitaria de
58
Venezuela, ¿sí? Y estos son
prioritized
municipios que
municipalities
históricamente
of
han
Venezuela,
tenido
and which are municipalities that have
en la
had
satisfacción de necesidades
uh,
básicas y que a partir de
problems
la
in
crisis humanitaria que experimenta el
satisfying
país,
basic
esa
needs.
brecha se ha
And in the
acrecentado
face of
y
the crisis of
afecta
the country,
especialmente a
that
mujeres, niñas y
uh,
adolescentes y
problem
especialmente
has
a comunidades indígenas. Entonces, este
deepened.
proyecto
This
busca
project
justamente
is
articular
trying to
actividades que
articulate
van,
activities
que
that
parten,
go
digamos, desde un enfoque
from
humanitario
a
y desde un
humanitarian
enfoque también de
approach
nexos en el
and
área
from
de
a
seguridad
nexus
alimentaria y medios de vida,
approach
pero
in
que
the
se
area
bajo un
of
abordaje de la centralidad de la
livelihood,
protección están
and
atendiendo
we are
estos
trying
riesgos
to address
estas
these
causas estructurales de estos riesgos de
risks,
protección que
structural
afectan
causes,
especialmente a las
these
mujeres.
risks that affect
Desde nuestro
especially
trabajo
women.
como la
From our
Unidad
work
Internacional
as
Humanitario de la Oficina
the
Nacional de
humanitarian work
Coordinación de
of
Asuntos
the
Humanitarios de
Central
Venezuela, vemos como una
Office
excelente
of
práctica
Humanitarian
la
Issues in Venezuela,
coordinación que
we
está
see as an
realizando FAO con
excellent
otras
practice the
agencias del
coordination of
Sistema
the
de Naciones
FAO
Unidas,
with
por
other
ejemplo,
agencies of the
OIM
UN, for
y
example,
ACNUR, que
IOM
ya habían
and
identificado personas
HCR,
y
which
comunidades en riesgos
already
álgidos de protección
uh,
y que estas comunidades
identified
estaban aplicando
communities at
estrategias de
risk and
afrontamiento
which are having emergency livelihoods. The activities developed by the FAO within the framework of this project are trying to strengthen and recover in a fast manner the livelihoods of these communities so that the sources of income allow improving these strategic indicators based on emergency livelihoods so that these populations should not have uh, to face protection risks, especially for the women and young people of the community. For us community and for the SERF, it is very interesting to participate in the funding and technical and financial support of these initiatives that respond to structural causes of some of the protection risks that we have identified in Venezuela, which are effective, especially the indigenous communities in the country, and that allow recovery and fast recovery of the livelihoods of these indigenous communities with an approach not only of surviving, but of being sustainable. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias,
Thank you.
Lilia.
Thank you very much,
Absolutamente
Lilia.
interesante el enfoque
It's
que nos
very
comentó.
interesting to know about this
Ahora me
approach
gustaría
that you are
que
commenting.
pasemos a la
Now, I would
pregunta que
like to
tienen
go
desde
to
YouTube
the
para Milagro, por
question
favor.
from YouTube for
Antonia
Milagro.
nos
Antonia
pregunta,
is
¿cómo ha logrado el
asking how
proyecto
the
mejorar la
project managed to
eficiencia y la
improve
sostenibilidad de la
efficiency
producción
and
agrícola,
sustainability
artesanal
of
y
the
apícola de las comunidades
agricultural,
indígenas? ¿Y
artisanal, and
cuáles han sido
beekeeping
los
production,
principales
and
desafíos
which have
técnicos
been the
enfrentados
main
en este proceso?
technical challenges in this process?
Vale, gracias.
Great, thank you.
Fíjate, uno de los elementos
One of
clave
the key
fundamentales para la
elements which
realización de
are
los proyectos y que pueda tener
essential for these
sostenibilidad
projects
es
and
la
to be
aplicación del proceso de
sustainable is the
consentimiento libre, previo
application
e
of
informado.
the
Por ser
free
comunidades
informed
indígenas, esto es un elemento
consent.
fundamental,
Given that they are
no solamente desde el inicio,
indigenous
sino desde que se
communities, it is
está
essential to
formulando la
have this
intención o la
element from the
implementación
beginning,
del
and
programa
from the
desarrollado.
design of
Otro de
the
los elementos
project.
claves es
Another
implicar
key
no solamente
element
a las
is
mujeres, a las ancianas, sino
not
también a
only
la juventud,
involving young
no
people,
solamente por
not
el rol
only
que tienen
the
dentro de la
elderly,
economía
but
familiar
also
y
the
el
young
transferencia de
people because of
conocimiento,
their
sino
impact
también por
and
su
for the
compatibilidad de
knowledge
vincularse
transfer, and because
con
they
medios
are
digitales,
easy to be involved
con
with
herramientas
digital
digitales.
and
Y bueno, para
tools and
mejorar
media.
la
And in order
eficiencia,
to
creo
improve
que una
the
de las cosas
efficiency, one
que
of the
nos
things
planteamos
that
desde el
we
proyecto también
proposed
fue
in the
articular el
project
saber
was
ancestral
articulating
con las prácticas agrícolas
ancestral
de
knowledge with
diversificación
the
alimentaria sensibles a la
cultural
nutrición,
practices of
apoyado con
diversification
asistencia técnica,
with
apoyo a la
technical
infraestructura productiva
assistance, support to
local, sobre
um,
todo de estas
productive
familias que estaban en
facilities of
situaciones de
these
vulnerabilidad, tal
families who
como lo
were
comentaba
vulnerable,
Lilia,
as said by
y
Lilia,
bueno, promover un
and
plan de
promote a
capacitación
plan
vocacional
of
para llevar a cabo no solamente
vocational
actividades
training,
de
not
medios de
only
vida,
to
de medios de vida
undertake
agrícolas, sino
activities
también
of
que podamos poder
agricultural
implementar otros
livelihoods,
medios
but
utilizados no
also to
agrícolas, como es el
implement
tema de la
other
artesanía. Otro
non-agricultural
de los elementos
livelihoods like
claves así
handicraft.
que
Another
nos
key
parece como
element
súper
that we
importante
think it's
promover no
very important
solamente el
is
uso
promoting
de
not only
insumos
use of
locales
local
y de
input
herramientas
and
locales, sino también
local tools, but
promover
also
el uso de
promoting the
insumos para
use
el control
of
de plagas y
inputs for
enfermedades, no
control
solamente de los
of
cultivos, sino también
pests
para
and
proteger a las
diseases of
abejas
the
que
different
estamos
crops and protect
promoviendo
the
dentro de la
bees
apicultura.
that we're
Y
promoting with
con
the
respecto a
beekeeping.
los
And with
desafíos, bueno, uno de
respect
los
to the
desafíos
challenges, one of the
que
challenges
siempre nos encontramos cuando trabajamos con comunidades indígenas, la primera barrera es el idioma
When
y
we
por
work
ello es
with
importante
indigenous
la
communities,
localización,
the first barrier
contar
is
con
the
socios
language
locales que encuentren con
and their
personal
location.
indígena que pueda
So
ser
to know that
bilingüe
they have
y si no es
indigenous
indígena que
people
pueda al
that are
menos maneje
bilingual,
el
or
idioma
at
indígena
least they
y
know
que
the
pueda
indigenous
facilitar el
language,
intercambio de
and they can
conocimientos.
enable the
Y bueno,
exchange of
otro de los
knowledge.
desafíos era cómo
Another of the
mantener en buen
challenges is how
estado
to
los equipos
maintain in
tecnológicos que
good
estábamos planteando
position
en la
in the
estación creativa
state,
y para ello se
in the
contó
creative
con el apoyo
station,
del socio
and
local
we had
y
the support of the local
establecimos
partner,
esta
and we
estación para que
established
todos pudieran
this so
acceder a ella,
everybody
pero
could
en un
have
espacio en donde
access,
todos pudiesen
but in a space where
tener acceso y que
everybody
además podamos
can,
contar con mantenimiento por parte del
we
socio
could
local.
have the maintenance from
Muchas
the local
gracias.
partners. Thank you very much.
Bueno, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Elisa nos pregunta
Now,
desde el canal de
Elisa
YouTube
is
si
asking
es que
us from the
podrías
YouTube
compartir más
channel
detalles
if you
sobre
could share
cómo
more
se ha
details
potenciado
of
la
how you have
diversificación de la producción
promoted the
a través de su proyecto.
diversification of production
Vale.
through this project.
La diversificación de la
The
producción se ha potenciado a
diversification of
través de
production
distintas
has
estrategias y bueno, una de ellas es que
been
se promovió
strengthened
la
through
elaboración
different
de subproductos
strategies.
de la
So we
yuca como
created
el
the
casabe o la
elaboration of
yuca mayota
products of
y
cassave,
que el casabe es
and
un alimento no
cassave
solamente
is a
aceptado
food
culturalmente,
not
sino que
only
también
accepted
brinda beneficios
culturally, but also
nutricionales,
provides
es
nutritional
resistente a las
benefits,
condiciones climáticas
and is
locales
resistant to
y
the
tiene un buen
climate
mercado no
conditions,
solamente a
and it
nivel
has a
local,
good
sino
market
también a
not only
nivel
locally,
nacional.
but also
Otra de las
nationally.
estrategias que nosotros
Another
hemos,
strategy that
hemos
we
visto
have
para potenciar la
seen to
diversificación
promote the
es fortalecer la
diversification
cultura del
is to
conuco.
strengthen
Y esto no
the
solamente nos permite
culture of
diversificar el
Kunuka,
consumo de alimentos
not
nutritivos
only
dentro de las
the
comunidades
use
indígenas,
of
sino que también nos
nutritious
permite
food,
mejorar la salud
but
de
to
los suelos.
improve the health
Y
of the soil.
como tercer punto,
And
quisiera
as a
mencionar
third
el tema
item, I
del
would like to
fortalecimiento de las
mention the
cadenas de producción
strengthening of
apícolas,
production chain
quizás a una escala
from the
mayor que les
bees,
permita la
maybe at a
producción para
bigger
la venta, no
scale,
solamente
that allows
producción
them
para
the
consumo local,
production
sino
not
que a
only for
través de
local
mecanismos de
consumption, but
financiamiento
to
comunitario,
sell.
de ahorro y crédito
And
que son promovidos por la FAO, se han podido
through different
instalar
mechanisms of
estos
savings
para
and
un
credit
tema de
through
venta.
FAO,
Y con
we have
respecto a
improved
la
this.
artesanía, allí
And
se
regarding
promovió la
handcrafts,
generación de
we
nuevos
promoted the
diseños con la
generation of
utilización de
new
las
designs
mismas técnicas
with
ancestrales,
the same
vinculándolas con unas
ancestral
condiciones
techniques,
quizás un poco más modernas para poder
including
atraer a
modern
mercados más
design,
amplios
to be
e
able to
inclusivos.
appeal to
Y
broader
bueno,
and
en
inclusive
resumen, la
markets.
diversificación de
So
la
in
producción
summary,
ha
the
mejorado muchísimo
diversification of
lo que es el
production
empoderamiento de las
has
mujeres
improved the
indígenas, sino
empowerment of
también la
indigenous
sostenibilidad
women
social,
and also
económica y
social
ambiental en el
sustainability and
Amazonas.
in economic
Muchas
and in the
gracias.
environment in the Amazon region. Thank you very much.
Milagro, Lilia, muchísimas gracias por sus
Milagro and
aportes en
Lilia,
esta
thank you very
primera ronda
much
de
for your
preguntas.
contribution
Pero
in the
antes de
first
que
round of
sigamos
questions.
reflexionando, les
So
invito a que
before we keep
conozcamos el segundo
reflecting, I
proyecto de
invite
este
you
bloque.
to
Vamos por favor con el video
let's
de la
find
Iniciativa
about
de
the
Gobernanza
second
Marino-Costera de Chile.
group, and we're going.
Al sur de Chile, en Puerto Raúl Marín Balmaceda, en el área de conservación de múltiples usos Pitipalena añihue, habita una especie que por décadas ha sido el sustento de pescadoras y pescadores de la zona, el puye. Cada primavera, los lugareños emplean técnicas ancestrales para capturar este pez único, de alto valor gastronómico y económico. El actual estado vulnerable de la especie ha generado que pescadores y pescadoras locales decidieran avanzar hacia la conservación y el desarrollo de su comunidad. Durante meses trabajaron junto a autoridades en medidas de conservación que integren sus experiencias y prácticas tradicionales, así como en estrategias de manejo sostenibles y culturalmente apropiadas, claves para el éxito de su implementación. Este trabajo, apoyado por el proyecto GEF, Gobernanza Marino-Costera, aportó datos de patrones de captura y estacionales, los que fueron utilizados para desarrollar modelos de monitoreo para la protección a largo plazo. Este esfuerzo impulsó la formalización de la pesca del puye en el área de conservación y la regularización que autoriza la extracción del puye a 71 pescadores y pescadoras locales. Estos avances generan una mejora sustancial para la comunidad puyera, la que ahora puede acceder a beneficios que fortalecen la economía local. Gracias al trabajo permanente de la recientemente creada Mesa del Puye, podrán continuar con un enfoque de largo plazo con esta actividad que por generaciones ha forjado la identidad de los guardianes del Puye.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Muy interesante también esta segunda
A
experiencia
very
Chile que
interesting
combina
example of Chile
conservación,
that
desarrollo
demonstrates how
sostenible y
integration of
participación comunitaria.
traditional knowledge
Ahora, para
and
reflexionar
developing
más en este
sustainable
segundo
management
proyecto,
works.
nos
To
estará
reflect more on
acompañando
this,
Manuel Arazo,
we will have Manuel Erazo,
coordinadora del proyecto GEF
coordinator
Gobernanza
of the
Marino-Costera.
Jeff Fishery of the Undersecretariat of Fishery and Aquaculture of
Muchísimas
Chile.
gracias a ambos
Thank you
por
very much, both
acompañarnos
of you, for
y
being here.
comencemos.
And let's
Hola
begin.
Manuela,
Hello,
muchísimas gracias por
Manuela.
estar
Thank
acá.
you very much for being here. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm so pleased to be here and to thank all the team of FAO for this immense display and organizing this interesting
Muchas
fair.
gracias Manuela.
Thank you very much,
Bueno, te
Manuela.
comento.
So,
Este proyecto ha
the
logrado
project
avances
has achieved
significativos en la
significant
formalización
progress
y
in
regularización de
formalizing
la
and
pesca del puy en
regulating the
Chile,
puya fishing in
integrando
Chile,
prácticas tradicionales
integrating
con
traditional
estrategias de manejo
practices with
sostenible.
sustainable management
¿Podrías
strategies.
profundizar
Could
sobre
you
cómo lograron
elaborate on
equilibrar la
how you
conservación de esta
managed to
especie
balance the
vulnerable
conservation of
con las
this vulnerable
necesidades
species
económicas de la comunidad local?
with the economic
¿Y
needs
qué
of the local
lecciones claves
communities?
surgieron de
And
este
what key
proceso?
lessons emerge from this process?
Muy buena la pregunta.
Very
Bueno,
good
para dar un poco de
question.
contexto, nuestro
To give you
proyecto,
some
el proyecto
context,
GEF
our
Gobernanza
project, the
Marino-Costera, que
GEF
es implementado por la
project
FAO,
that was
FAO
implemented
Chile,
by
en
FAO
alianza con el Ministerio de
Chile
Medio
in
Ambiente,
alliance with the
pero también la
Ministry of the
Subsecretaría de Pesca y
Environment and
Acuicultura
the
y el Servicio Nacional de
Undersecretary
Pesca y
of
Acuicultura.
Fisher and
Es una
Aquaculture.
iniciativa que ya lleva
It's
3
an
años
initiative that
trabajando en nuestro país.
has
Su foco
taken
principal es el
3 years
fortalecimiento de
in the
la gobernanza
country,
para la gestión
and the
sostenible de
focus
los
is to
ecosistemas
strengthen
marino-costeros de
governance
Chile.
to the sustainable
Trabajamos en 2 pilotos al
activity of
norte
the
de Chile,
ecosystems
una
in
zona que es
Chile. We
bien
worked in 2
árida,
pilots in the
muy
northern
importante
part of
también
Chile that is
para
very
la
arid,
biodiversidad
that
global.
is important
Y
for
también
global
otra zona, la
biodiversity,
Patagonia, en
and
el
in the
extremo sur de Chile,
Patagonia,
la
in the
región de
southern
Aysén,
extreme in
donde
Isen
se
region,
desarrolló
where we developed
este proyecto, el PUYE.
this Puye
Nuestro
project.
proyecto también tiene
Our
3
project also
grandes
has
ejes.
3
Uno es
big
gobernanza,
axes.
un
One is
segundo eje
axis,
tiene
a
que ver con
second one
fortalecimiento de
is the
capacidades
strengthening
y
of
un tercer eje tiene
capacities,
que ver
and the
con
third
transformación azul,
axis
con economía azul
is
y enfoque ecosistémico.
at the
Y es
transformation of
este tercer
economy.
pilar donde se
And in the
ubica
third
este
pillar
trabajo
is
del
where
PUYE,
we have the
que tiene como
PUYE
principal
work,
foco la
whose
generación de
main
incentivos
focus is the
económicos
generation
para
of
la
economic
conservación de la
incentives for
biodiversidad
the
marina. Ese es el foco
preservation
principal
of marine
este pilar,
biodiversity.
este programa que
This is
tenemos
the main
en el
focus of the
proyecto, y ahí
project
hemos
that
ido
we have in
generando
the
una serie de
project.
iniciativas.
And
En
we
el
have
caso del
generated
PUYE,
several
en la
initiatives.
comunidad de Puerto
And in
Raúl
the
y
Puyes
Malvacea es
case,
excepcional porque logramos,
the community,
como tú
we were
bien,
able,
bueno, nos
as
consultaste en
you
la
well
pregunta,
know,
aunar o vincular los
we
temas
were
de
able to
conservación
link
con también desarrollo
conservation
económico
topics with
a través
economic
de la
development
regularización
through
de
the
una pesca, de una actividad
regularization
pesquera
of a
tradicional
fishing
en Raúl Marín,
activity that was traditional in
que era
Raúl
fundamental, yo
Marín,
creo, para
that was
también
fundamental, I
activar
think,
procesos que son
to
fundamentales
activate
para la gestión
processes that are
efectiva
fundamental
del área marina
for the
protegida. Entonces,
efficient management of the protected
es
marine
un caso
area. So
muy
it's a very
interesante
interesting case
al propiciar, ¿no? La
to
formalización de las comunidades de
provide the
pescadores y pescadoras
formalization
para
of
que ellos también
these
puedan optar
fishing
a recursos
communities
públicos,
so they can have access to
para
public
optar a programas
resources,
también. En
access to
Chile es muy importante
programs.
eso, la
In Chile, this
formalización
is
en la
very
actividad pesquera
important to
para poder
formalize
ser
the
parte
fishing
también del
activity,
mercado,
to be part
poder
also
acceder
of
a
the market,
fondos,
to have
también ser
access to
parte de los procesos
funds,
de toma de
and to be
decisión.
part of
Entonces
the
era como la
decision-making
piedra, se podría
processes.
decir, angular
So this is like the
de la
cornerstone
comunidad, ¿no? De
of the
poder ser parte
community,
también de esto,
to be able to
tanto
be
del
part
mercado, o sea,
of
integrarse
the
al mercado, pero
market,
también en
to
la toma de
integrate in
decisión
the market and also in
pública.
the public
Y eso
decision
también
making.
contribuye, como bien
And
te
that
señalaba, a la
contributes, as I
gestión
said, to
efectiva
the
del área marina
efficient
protegida.
management of
Aquí
the
se conjugaron también
marine
dos cosas.
area.
El puye
Here we
como
have
especie,
two things. The
es un pez,
puye is
pero
a
también es un
fish,
objeto de
but it's
conservación del área
also a
marina protegida y al
object
mismo tiempo
of
es una especie de
conservation of the
interés
marine
comercial
area,
para estas
and
comunidades.
it's at the
Entonces,
same time a species of
constituye como un
commercial
símbolo, ¿no?
interest.
Muy
So it's
especial
like a
para la
symbol,
conservación,
very
pero
special
también para la
for the
actividad
conservation
productiva. Y a través de este
and the
ejercicio de
productive activity.
regularización
And through
que se
the
puso también la inclusión de
regularization
71 personas,
that
se
added the
logra paso
inclusion of
adelante
71
esta
people,
alianza entre
we took a step
conservación y
forward
desarrollo
in this
sostenible.
alliance between conservation and
Y bueno, las
sustainable
lecciones
development.
aprendidas han sido
And the
varias.
lessons learned
Debo
have
ser
been
súper franca, al
different.
principio
I
del
have to
proyecto,
be
cuando
very
surge el
frank.
tema del puye, nosotros fue
When
como,
we started with the
bueno,
PUYE,
nuestro
for
proyecto es
us
de
it was
gobernanza
our
marina,
project is of
cómo se
marine
integra el
governance. How
puye
do we
en
integrate PUYE
este como
in
entramado
this
de productos y
pattern
actividades
of
que
products
teníamos
and
que
activities
realizar?
that we had
Y
to
poco
do?
a poco
And
nos fuimos
little
dando
by
cuenta
little, we
de la
realize
importancia
the
de esta
importance
especie,
of this
¿no? Para poder
species
como hacer
to be able to do a check in the different areas in the project in conservation, sustainable development, blue economy. So I think this is one of the main lessons. At the beginning, we were doubtful if really through the work through PUYE we could generate an impact. And I would say this has been exceptional because in a case in the southern part of Chile has been an example for the rest of the country. Very interesting also the alliance that we created between the Ministry of the Environment that is in charge of conservation and biodiversity and the Undersecretariat of Fishery and Aquaculture because they did a wonderful job of coordination, of collaboration, of synergy that has led to this success. So I think these are the main lessons that you never know how these cases can generate a scaling of this type and also the importance of the collaboration between the different sectors and the agencies of the state. And now I think I will offer the floor to Ramiro. Thank you, Manuela. And taking this last point regarding the role of the government sector, I would like to address Ramiro. Ramiro, good morning. Can you hear us? Yes, I can hear you. Perfect. We also listen to you. So, Manuel, as a key partner of the project, the Ministry of the Environment has been fundamental in integrating conservation objectives with local economic development. How do you see the potential of replicating or scaling up this model of participatory governance and sustainable management to other marine and terrestrial conservation areas in Chile?
Hola a todas y todos.
First of all, good morning to all of us.
Dentro de los principales hitos que se
Within
realizó
the
con este
main
trabajo del PUYE, el
goals
trabajo en conjunto que bien decía Manuela,
was the joint
se
work,
realizó
as
entre las
Manuela
distintas
said,
agencias
that we did
gubernamentales,
with the different government
Nacional de Pesca,
entities,
el Ministerio
the
del Medio Ambiente,
fishery, the Ministry
el
of the
Instituto Nacional
Environment,
Pesquero, la
the
Subsecretaría de
Institute of
Pesca
Fishing, the
y
Undersecretariat of
principalmente
Fishing,
los
and
pobladores de la
mainly
localidad de Raúl Marín Balmaceda, que
the
ellos llevan más
locality
de
of
10
Raúl
años
Marín.
esperando una
They have been
regularización
waiting more
a
than
pesquería.
10 years for
Ah,
this.
Sin duda,
Without
el que
doubt,
hemos trabajado en un área
we have
protegida
worked in a
como
protected
base, digamos,
area
de toda la implementación
as a
normativa
basis of the
ha sido muy
implementation of all
relevante
these
y nos
norms,
permite
and it has been
a
very
nosotros desde la
relevant.
institucionalidad
It
pesquera
allows us
generar
from the institution, it allows us to
tomar decisiones
generate
particulares
or to
sobre
take specific
las
actions
comunidades. Es muy
on the
difícil para
communities.
nosotros en estos momentos
It was
como
very
está
hard for us
conceptualizada la ley de pesca
to
y
have a
acuicultura,
concept
lograr
and to
enfocarnos a las
achieve or
particularidades de cada
focus
territorio.
and the
Tuvimos la
specific
oportunidad
characteristics
y
of every
logramos
area.
tomar
But
todo
in
lo que
this
estaba
time,
haciendo la
we were
comunidad y poder
able to take
regularizarlo a
into
través
account
de
everything
la
that what
inclusión
the
dentro de
community
la
was doing and to
modalidad de pesquería
regularize
artesanales
and
que tenemos como
include
subsecretaría de Pesca.
through artisanal fishing.
Sin duda,
Without
es un
doubt,
ejemplo para
it's
nosotros
an
todo el
example
trabajo que
for
se ha
us
realizado
of the work
en esta pesquería
that we have done
Puye y
in the Puye fishing.
se va a tomar como ejemplo
And we
para
will
los
take this
futuros
an example
establecimientos de
for
pesquerías
the
a pequeña escala,
future
que es a través de
and to
nuestro
be able
fondo
to
nosotros logramos
replicate this
regularizar la pesquería.
and regularize the
Ah,
fishing activity.
Tenemos otros casos también que
We
se
have
están
other
trabajando,
cases
como
that we are
mencionaba,
working
también se va a empezar a trabajar en Isla de Pascua,
in
en
different
distintas
locations
áreas protegidas, todo el
and
tema de la
protected
regularización de la
areas
pesquería.
and how to
Pero
regularize the
por ahora
fisheries.
estamos empezando el trabajo
At the
con
moment, we
la pesquería del Puye que
are
establecimos en Puerto
beginning
Raúl
with the
Marín
Puye
Balmaceda, en el
fishing
área de conservación.
and in the
Como,
area
como se ha
of
visto en el video,
conservation. As
comenzamos a
we
hacer
said in the
la primera
video,
enseñanza del Puye.
we
Tuvimos
started
nuestra
to work
primera
in the
sesión la semana pasada,
Puye table,
donde es
where
fundamental las
it's
acciones de manejo que
fundamental
vamos a generar a
the
través de esta misma.
management actions that we have
Y
doing
vamos
through
a
that
seguir
table,
trabajando con la
and
comunidad
we are
como
going to
lo
keep
hemos
working with
hecho
the
desde hace mucho
community
tiempo.
as we have been doing so.
Bien. Muchas gracias, Ramiro.
Thank you very much,
Ahora,
Ramiro.
Manuela, te comento
Now,
que tenemos una
Manuela,
pregunta desde YouTube.
they have a
Javier consulta
question
lo
from
siguiente.
YouTube.
¿Cuáles son
Javier
los
asked the
principales
following
desafíos que
question. What are
encuentran
the
en el
main
trabajo con las
challenges that you
comunidades al
face in the
promover
work
una
with the
gobernanza
community by
sustentable de
promoting
este recurso?
sustainable governance of this resource?
Muy buena la pregunta de Javier.
Very good question, Javier.
Yo diría que, claro,
I
ya
would say
pasamos la
that,
etapa
of
de
course, we are
regularización,
beyond the
ya
stage
las
of
71 personas están
regularization.
inscritas,
The
hombres y mujeres,
71
¿no? Que son
people, men and women,
directores
are
de proyecto inscritos
registered.
en el registro pesquero.
They
Ya
are
se
in the
constituyó la
fishing
mesa de PUYE y
registry.
ahora
We
los
have the
desafíos que
PUYE
vienen a
table,
futuro
and
tienen
now
que
the
ver con los temas de
challenges in the future
gobernanza.
have to
Y
deal with
ahí
governance.
es clave,
And
digamos,
there
el
it's
tema, yo diría, un
key,
principal desafío, el tema de la
and the main
coordinación
challenge is the
entre, en este caso, la
coordination
Subsecretaría de
between
Pesca, el
the
Ministerio de Medio
Undersecretariat of
Ambiente,
Fishing, the
el
Ministry
Servicio
of
Nacional
the
de Pesca también,
Environment,
que
the
es el ente
National
fiscalizador,
Fishing Service, which
para
is the
llevar adelante, bueno, y la comunidad de Raúl
monitoring
Marín. Por supuesto,
agent, and
yo
the
no lo mencioné
community of
en
Raúl
mi intervención
Mining.
al principio, pero
In my
lo menciona
intervention,
Ramiro.
I said
Y
it,
esto,
but
o sea,
Ramiro
este
says
también,
it also.
gran
This
logro no hubiese sido
great
posible si la
achievement
comunidad de
wouldn't
Raúl
have
Marín
been possible
Balmaceda, la comunidad
without the
puyera,
community
no
of Raúl
no hubiera
Marín,
participado
the
solamente desde un
Puyera
principio. Entonces,
community,
yo creo que
if they
acá el
did not
peso
participate
de
since the
cada uno de estos
beginning.
actores,
So
el
I think that
Estado,
the weight
las
of
agencias
each
sectoriales,
stakeholders,
la
the
comunidad
state, the
local,
sectoral
es
agencies, and the
fundamental de que
local
inicie un
community
proceso de trabajo
is
conjunto que sea
fundamental
muy sistemático,
to
muy riguroso,
begin
muy robusto y al mismo tiempo
a
también que
group work
se
that
generen
is
acciones de
strong
manejo, porque
and to
dimos un
generate
primer
also
paso, pero esto no
management
termina
actions
aquí,
because
sino
we
que
took a
continúa
first
en el
step.
tiempo.
But this does not end here. It
Estamos trabajando también en el contexto, que yo
comes
creo
with
que
time,
también es algo que
and
puede
we're working
beneficiar
with
este
the
proceso, que es el
context, and this is
contexto del
something
área
that can
marina
benefit
protegida y
the
dentro del área
marine
marina es
protected area.
donde se van a
And
generar todas
within
las
this,
acciones
we will generate
de
all the
manejo. Si bien el PUY es
actions for
es una
management.
pesquería
Even
reconocida,
though
sigue estando
Puye
dentro
is
del
a
contexto de
recognized fishing,
un área
it's
protegida.
within a
Entonces,
context of a protected
es
area.
fundamental
So
de que
it's
se considere eso
fundamental
y que todos
that we
esos
take
actores que yo
this into
menciono, comunidad
account, and all
local,
the
Ministerio de Medio
stakeholders that I
Ambiente,
mentioned, the
Subsecretaría de Pesca y
local
otras entes de
community,
gobierno,
the
actúen de
ministry, and
manera
other
muy
entities
coordinada y
behave in a
ojalá
coordinated
en el
manner.
corto mediano plazo
And
podamos tener
hopefully in the short and medium
acciones
run,
de
we can
manejo bien
have
concretas, ¿no?
management
Para
actions that
asegurar
are quite
tanto la
concrete
conservación del puye,
to
pero también
ensure Puye's
el
conservation,
puye como especie comercial,
and
¿no? Esto
also
sigue siendo una
Puye
especie
as
de
a
mucho
commercial
valor
species
comercial,
is
que
a species
es una
that
pieza
has a
clave
great
para la
commercial
economía
value,
local y
is a
también para la
key
seguridad alimentaria
piece
de, bueno,
for local
de la región y del
local
país.
economy,
Entonces,
and also for the region.
sigue siendo un
So
sistema alimentario.
it's
Entonces,
a
estas
feeding
acciones
system. So
de
the
gobernanza tienen que
actions,
estar muy bien acortadas
governance
para
have to
lograr
be
estos objetivos de
very well
conservación, pero también
structured to be able to
de
achieve
comercialización, mejorar
conservation,
las cadenas de
and
valor,
also
darle un valor
marketing
agregado al
to
PUYE,
improve value-added
sofisticar
chain,
también todo ese
give
proceso,
an
¿no? De
added value
comercialización,
to
de extracción y
Puye,
también de
to
comercialización. Todo
make
eso
a
suponen
better
acciones muy coordinadas, muy
trading
finas
or
entre
a
todos estos
marketing
actores que yo te
process.
mencionaba, que
All
es
of
la comunidad
this
local organizada
requires
y también
coordination between
las
all the
agencias de gobierno
entities, the
y nosotros,
government
bueno, como
agencies and
proyecto
the
y desde FAO
community,
siempre
and
vamos a
we
estar
as
ahí
project and
para
FAO,
acompañarlos,
we
por
will
lo menos
always be
durante un
there to
tiempo
support
y
them,
seguir ahí
at least during the
fortaleciendo
time, and to
esas
keep
acciones.
Sí,
strengthening those
bueno,
actions.
absolutamente, Manuela.
Well, thank you
Muchísimas
absolutely,
gracias a ti
Manuela.
y
Thank
también
you
a
very
Ramiro
much
que
for
nos
you and
acompaña
to Ramiro
virtualmente. Creo que este
that
proyecto
accompanies in a virtual
muestra
way. I
claramente el
think that the
rol
project
que juega la
clearly
coordinación
shows the role that the
y
multisectorial
el incluir
coordination
a
has,
distintos actores que
and
son
to
todos muy
include different
relevantes
stakeholders that are
en esta
relevant
implementación y el
in
éxito del
this
proyecto.
implementation and in the success of
Pero
the
bueno, ahora
project.
entonces para ya
So
ir finalizando esta
now to
reflexión
end these
y,
reflections
y dar paso también
and to give
a la participación del proyecto anterior, les
to
comento
speak
que
about the
ahora es momento
other
de
project,
abrir
now it's the
un
time
espacio
to
para preguntas
open
finales que van a ser dirigidas a ambos
a
equipos.
space for
Les
final
comento que solo
questions.
contamos con 5 minutos para
We
este
only
espacio,
have
así
5
que por
minutes
favor
for the
solicitamos
space, so we
responder
kindly ask you to
brevemente dentro de lo
respond
posible.
briefly to the following
Y
questions.
estas preguntas son para
So the
Manuela y
questions
Milagro.
are both for Manuela
Y
and
dice así:
Milagro. Both projects demonstrate innovative approaches to integrate the conservation of natural resources, local economic development, and the protection of vulnerable communities. From your experiences, what do you consider are the key elements to achieve this balance between social, economic, and environmental objectives in sustainable development projects?
Súper, yo diría que ahí está como
I would
la clave
say that there
del
we have the
éxito de
key
proyectos
of the success of the
o
project,
sea, de proyectos de este tipo,
of
¿no? Que
projects
apuntan
of this type that
a los temas
aim
de seguridad alimentaria, de fortalecimiento
to food
de estos sistemas
security. The
alimentarios y que
strengthening
como
of
cumplir con
this
estos
food
tres
system is
ejes,
to
¿no?
fulfill these three axes.
Mira, yo creo que el
Look,
tema del,
I
tú lo
think,
mencionabas, el tema de
as
la
you mentioned,
coordinación y de
the
entre,
coordination
entre las distintas
between
agencias de
the
gobierno, o sea, la
different government
colaboración
agencies,
multisectorial
the
es súper
multisectorial
importante,
collaboration is very important.
porque en este caso, claro, yo estoy
Because
pensando en
in
el
this
tema del
case,
PUYE,
I am
pero
thinking
y ahí
about
quizás
the
Ramiro
PUYE,
también me puede
but
complementar el
maybe
tema de
Ramiro can
que
complement this.
colaboraron acá el Ministerio de Medio
The
Ambiente
Ministry of
y ahí
the
hacen
Environment helped,
incorporan los temas
and then
ambientales,
they
pero
include the
también la subpesca
environmental
que tiene, la
topics, but
Subsecretaría de Pesca y Agricultura que
also
tiene como
the
mandato, digamos,
fishery that
el
has the
surgimiento
mandate to
de la actividad
strengthen
pesquera y acuícola en el
the
país. Ese es su
fishing
mandato
and
para el Ministerio de
aquaculture
Protección del
activity.
Medio
That
Ambiente.
is the
Entonces ahí tú
mandate. And
vas
for the
generar
the
esa
ministry
colaboración muy
is
a
to
nivel
protect the
base,
environment.
desde lo local, o
So
sea, desde
it
funcionarios que
goes
tienen
from the
asiento
local,
regional,
from staff
tú logras
members
ir
that are
avanzando
locally.
también
You advance
en esta labor. Y por
in
supuesto
this
también
work.
yo creo que a
And
futuro,
of
en el caso
course,
del
in the
PUYE, es
future,
fundamental
in Puya's
incorporar a las
case, I think
agencias
it's
de
fundamental
fomento, ¿no?
to
Las que
include
financian
the
todas estas
agencies that
iniciativas.
promote
Pero
and
yo creo que
finance
la
all these
clave es
initiatives.
la
The key,
colaboración,
I
o
think,
sea,
is
entre las
collaboration
disciplinas,
between the
entre
different
las agencias de
disciplines,
gobierno,
the government
generar
agencies,
una colaboración
to
también
generate a
muy,
collaboration
muy transversal con
also
las comunidades
very
locales,
cross-cutting with the
generar esta
cultural
gobernanza
communities to
colaborativa,
generate this
multinivel,
collaborative governance
policéntrica,
at
si queremos llamarla de alguna
multi-level
manera, es
polycentric,
también
to
súper
call them
fundamental. No
one
es
way.
fácil,
It's
de repente se
fundamental.
simplifica un
It's not
poco
easy.
hacer
Sometimes we
check en esto
simplify
ambiental,
and make a check
económico y
in
social,
environmental, economic, and
pero tiene
social,
que estar así como muy
but it
impregnado en
has to
nuestro
be
trabajo
very deep in
y te
our
digo que
minds.
son acciones también
And I
de largo plazo,
think
son
these
muy
are
complejas,
actions that
pero
are
debe
quite
estar en el eje de
complex,
toda
but it
intervención.
should be in the axis of
Muchas
any
gracias, Manuela. Y
intervention.
entonces
Thank
damos
you
la
very
palabra
much,
a Milagros
Manuela. So
para
now,
responder esta pregunta.
Milagros, you have the floor to answer the
De
question.
nuestro lado, trabajar
From
con
our
medios de vida,
behalf,
la verdad es que
to
ha
work
sido
with
bastante
livelihoods has
fructífero porque
been
los medios de vida
very
sostenibles no
fruitful because
solamente
the
tocan
sustainable
el pilar
livelihoods
productivo, sino que
not
también
only
tocan el
touch
pilar
the
económico,
productive
ambiental,
pillar, but
social
also the
y que
economic,
en
social,
el
and
caso
environmental.
del proyecto, de la
And
experiencia que tuvimos en Amazonas,
in the
la
case of
colaboración
our
con otras
project,
agencias
that
no solamente nos
collaboration with
permitió
other agencies
abarcar temas como
not
protección,
only
sino
help us to
también
address topics
mitigar
as
riesgos de
protection, but
violencia
to
basada en
mitigate
género, mitigar
risks
riesgos
of gender
de los
violence,
jóvenes
mitigate risks that the young
se
people
alisten a grupos
could
armados
be
que también están
ready
como
for human
existentes en las
groups
zonas. Entonces,
that are existing in
este
the
tipo de
area.
proyectos
So
no
this type
solamente
of
podía
projects not
complementar estos
only
riesgos de
could
protección,
complement
sino que
these
también
protection
pueden
risks,
complementar
but
otras
also can
esferas
complement
estratégicas como
other
el ámbito de
strategic
nutrición,
spheres
también pueden
like
complementar otras
nutrition.
esferas como es el
They
tema
can
de
complement other
quizás
spheres
salud
like
también
health
y otras
and
alternativas
other
de atención de seguridad
alternatives
alimentaria. Y para
of
ello
food
es bien
security.
importante la articulación
And
que
for that,
realiza
it's
OCHA,
important the
donde
articulation that
traen
OCHA
en
makes
Venezuela a través de estos
here in
proyectos
Venezuela
apoyados
through
por
this
FAO.
project,
No
supporting
solamente nos
by SERV,
permite vincularnos
not
con otras
only help
agencias
us to
asistentes a
link
Naciones
with
Unidas, sino
other
también
agencies of the United
con los
Nations
gobiernos
system,
locales y,
but
como
with
lo
the local
decía Marcela,
governments,
con las
and as
comunidades. Y
Marcela
bueno, un
said,
pilar
with the
fundamental allí
communities, and a
es
fundamental
el
pillar
hecho de que en
there
estas comunidades
is the
indígenas
fact that in these
la FAO
indigenous
tiene una muy buena
communities,
práctica y es
FAO
la
has
realización
a
del
very good
consentimiento libre,
practice
previo,
and
informado
is to
y que
have
nos
the
permite amalgamar y articular todas las
consent, the
acciones
previous
que nosotros
consent
podemos
that
generar
allow us to do all
desde,
the generations that
desde
we
la FAO
can
y que puedan adaptarse
generate
a
through
las
FAO
comunidades.
and that can be adapted to the
Gracias.
communities. Thank you very much.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias,
Well,
Manuela,
thank you very
Milagros,
much,
nuevamente por estar
Manuela,
acá.
Vilaro, for being
Absolutamente
here.
inspiradoras sus palabras y
Absolutely
reflexiones en el
inspiring
día
your
de hoy
words
y creo
and
que hay
your
muchas lecciones
contributions.
aprendidas,
I think there are
inspiración y
many
oportunidades que podemos destacar de sus
lessons
proyectos
learned
para el futuro.
that we can
Entonces,
highlight.
bueno, ahora para proseguir,
Now,
eh,
to continue,
invito a escuchar las
I
palabras
invite you
de
to
síntesis
listen
que
the
hará
synthesis word,
Javier Villanueva,
the
oficial de
synthesis
pesca,
words of
avicultura
Javier
y
Villanueva,
coordinador de la prioridad
official
regional
of
Mejor Producción de
Fisheries,
la Oficina
Better
Regional de la FAO para
Production
América Latina y el
of
Caribe.
FAO for Latin
Javier,
America and the
¿estás ahí? ¿Puedes
Caribbean.
escucharnos?
Javier, are you there?
Sí, Antonia, muy buenos días a todas y a
Yes,
todos.
Antonia. Good morning to all of you.
Muchas gracias, Javier. Bueno, bienvenido y muchas gracias por acompañarnos.
Welcome and thank you
Tienes
for
la
being
palabra.
here. You have the
Muchísimas
floor.
gracias y bueno, antes de
Thank you
concluir,
very
quiero
much.
expresar mi
And
sincero
before
agradecimiento a los
finishing, I want to
panelistas
give my deep
por
thanks to
estas
the
buenas
panelists
presentaciones que
for
nos han
these great
ilustrado sobre el
presentations
importante de
that
los
have
proyectos en el
illustrated the
marco
importance
de una mejor
of the
producción.
projects in the
También
framework of a
agradezco
better
al equipo de
production.
FAO
I
Transforma por
thank the
organizar este
FAO
evento,
Transforma
por esta
team for
oportunidad de poder
organizing this
presentar
important
los
event
logros que
to
estamos
be able
obteniendo.
to promote the
Quiero agradecer
achievements
a los
that we are
socios, recursos
promoting.
presentes
I
por el
want to
continuo
thank
apoyo
the
fundamental
partners
para poder
of
avanzar hacia una
the
producción
resources and
equitativa,
to move
sostenible
through
y
a more
resiliente en la región.
resilient
Refiriéndome
production
al
in the
proyecto de
region.
la Amazonía
Speaking
venezolana,
about the
es importante
project of
notar que
the
este promueve el
Amazon
desarrollo y
Venezuelan
diversificación de la
region,
producción local
this
en las comunidades
promotes
indígenas,
the
centrándose
diversification
en la
of the
agricultura,
local
la
production,
piscicultura y la tradición
centering in
y artesanía.
agriculture, apiculture,
A través
and
de distintas
traditional
estrategias de
knowledge
producción sostenible y
through
la capacitación
different
de las
sustainable
pequeñas productoras
techniques,
indígenas. Esto ayuda a fomentar
models.
un desarrollo
This
económico sostenible
promotes a
que
sustainable
respeta el
development
entorno
that
local y genera
respects
ingresos para las
the
comunidades
environment
productores
and
en las
creates
comunidades.
income for the small
Además, es importante
communities.
notar que
It's
se ha
also
logrado integrar a
important
los
to
pequeños
note that we
productores en
have
las
been
cadenas de
able to
valor globales,
integrate the small
lo que hace
producers
que se
to
facilite el
the
acceso a
value
los
chains,
mercados que sean más
which
amplios,
enables
que
access to
puedan conocer
markets that are
herramientas
broader,
tecnológicas
and they can use
especializadas de
technological tools
comercialización
that
y
are
mercadeo,
innovative
poder
tools
ayudar a sus medios de vida.
and to help their
Este
livelihoods.
enfoque inclusivo nos
This
asegura que los
inclusive
productos locales
approach
tengan una mayor
ensures that the
visibilidad
local products
y
have a
desde luego que
greater
las
visibility
comunidades rurales
and
participen en
allows
los
the
mercados
rural
más grandes,
communities to
no solamente
participate in
ya a
greater
nivel
markets,
territorio,
not
sino que puedas
only at
tener un
territory
juego
level,
mayor
but
para
they can
crecer la
have
seguridad
a
alimentaria
greater
en nuestra
spoke
región.
for
Esto es
food
sumamente
security.
importante y la
This
inclusión de
is
estos sectores
very
en las dinámicas
important,
de
the
mercado
inclusion of these
juegan un
sectors
rol
in the market dynamic.
clave para poder
They
avanzar hacia una
have a
mejor
key role
producción
to advance
y
to
que
a
esta
better
sea realmente
production
sostenible y
and that it's
transformadora.
really sustainable and
Ahora, hablando un
transformative.
poco, pasamos al otro sector, el
Now
área
let's go to the other
de la tierra,
sector
vamos al agua,
about
vamos a
from
los
the land,
mares.
we go to the
En este
water,
caso
to
fue
the
un
seas,
proyecto
to the
sensible
oceans.
de los
And
mares
this is a
australes de
case that
Chile.
spoke
Este
about
proyecto
the
se centra en la gobernanza
southern
participativa y la
seas of
conservación sostenible de la
Chile.
costa del
And
país.
this is
Muy
sustained in
importante
the
también porque este proyecto nos está
fishing of
ayudando a
buye.
abordar la
This
transformación
is
azul del sector
helping to
en
address
todas
the
las esferas
transformation to the
económicas de la gestión
sector
sostenible de
from
la
all
pesca
the
y
spheres from
también de poder
fishing
hacer que los
and
sistemas
also to be able
agroalimentarios
to make
acuáticos
the
jueguen un mayor
agro
rol para la sostenibilidad de
fooding
la seguridad alimentaria en
systems
nuestra región. Desde luego, para
in
lograr esto
fishing
necesitamos
can
una
help
mejor
us.
producción
We
y
need a
actuar de
better
manera sostenible
production in
para
a
su especie.
sustainable way for the
En este proyecto
species.
se integran
In
prácticas
this project,
tradicionales y
they
modernas de
integrate
conservación
traditional
humana
practices
y se ha
and
logrado un
modern
equilibrio entre la
conservation
conservación
techniques,
ambiental y las
and there have been
necesidades
achieved a
económicas del sector.
balance.
Este es un modelo exitoso,
This
como
is
ya
a
comenté, de la
successful
Blue
model
Transformation Azul.
of
Es
the
una iniciativa
blue
que FAO está
transformation that
promoviendo
is an
para
initiative
incrementar el
that
rol de los
FAO
sistemas
is promoted
alimentarios a la cadena
to
alimentaria y nutricional.
include
En esta
other
iniciativa ha
models.
sido
In this
posible
initiative,
básicamente gracias a la inclusión
it
amplia.
has been
Se articuló la
thanks to
participación
the
activa de las
wide
comunidades y la gestión de sus
acceptance of
propios
the
recursos.
communities and to
Cabe
manage their
destacar
own
que uno de los
resources.
pilares también de la
It's
transformación azul
important,
es el
one of the
manejo de los
pillars of
recursos,
the blue
por lo cual
transformation
los
is the
stakeholders
management
también
of
juegan
the
un rol
resources.
sumamente
That's
importante
why the
en este
stakeholders
proceso
have an
de
important
gobernanza.
role in this
La producción
governance
sostenible
system.
de los
The
océanos
sustainable
depende de
production
una
of the
coordinación
oceans
efectiva de
depend of
todos
an
los
efficient
actores
coordination
involucrados, tanto a
of
nivel
the
gobierno
involved
como los
stakeholders
usuarios,
at the
y
government
las
level
diferentes
and the
organizaciones sociales.
users
Y la FAO ha
and the
demostrado tener la
academia. And the
capacidad de
FAO has
facilitar esta
shown the
articulación,
capacity to
promoviendo
enable
una
this
gobernanza integrada
articulation,
que
to
permite
have an
avanzar
governance that
hacia un manejo
allows to
pesquero más
advance and
inclusivo,
have
equitativo y
an
sostenible.
inclusive fishery
Ya para ir
management.
cerrando, quiero
To
subrayar
close, I want
básicamente
to
que estos
highlight
proyectos
that these
tienen el
projects
potencial o
have the
muestran que la
potential
región
or
tiene el
show
potencial
that the
para poder
region has the
promover
potential to
modelos de
promote
desarrollo sostenible. Fueron
sustainable
dos ejemplos
development
simplemente de
models.
muchos que
There were
existen en la
two
región y
examples
donde la
of
FAO
many that
ha
exist in the region where FAO is supporting the countries to reach a better production. These two approaches were promoted in different areas of our diverse region. We have a project in Venezuela and one in the southern part of Chile, and they show us that a better production has a key role to increase productive efficiency and also to guarantee equality, sustainability, and social resilience. The road to a more sustainable future will depend on the capacity to integrate all the aspects that we have analyzed during this segment to ensure that we do not leave anyone behind, as FAO promotes in the agenda that is promoting at global, regional, and local and national level. Thank you very much for your participation and commitment in this block.
Agradecemos las reflexiones finales del
Thank
oficial
you
Javier
for
Villanueva
your
y de
final
todos los
thoughts,
panelistas que
Javier
participaron en este
Villanueva,
primer
and
bloque
we
sobre
thank all the
mejor
panelists
producción.
who participated in
Ahora
this block
tomaremos
for
un
better
breve descanso
production.
de
We're
5
going to have
minutos
a
antes de
5-minute
continuar con el
break
siguiente bloque,
before continuing
donde
with the next
exploraremos
block,
experiencias
where
enmarcadas
we
en la
will
prioridad
explore
estratégica mejor
experiences
nutrición.
regarding
Nos vemos en 5
better
minutos.
nutrition. We'll see you in 5 minutes.
Los desafíos globales requieren transformaciones profundas en la forma en que producimos, comercializamos y consumimos nuestros alimentos. La FAO trabaja día a día junto a sus socios y aliados para transformar los sistemas agroalimentarios de América Latina y el Caribe. Te invitamos a conocer proyectos que dejan huella en temáticas como educación alimentaria, economía circular, digitalización rural inclusiva, acción anticipatoria y mucho más. Regístrate y participa en la Feria FAO Transforma 2024. Construyamos juntas y juntos un futuro mejor. Global challenges require profound transformation in the way we produce, market, and consume our food. FAO works daily alongside its partners and allies to improve agri-food systems in Latin America and the Caribbean. We invite you to discover projects that make a difference in topics like food education, circular economy, inclusive rural digitalization, anticipatory action, and much more. Register and participate in the FAO Transforms 2024 Fair. Let's build a better future together. Los desafíos globales requieren transformaciones profundas en la forma en que producimos, comercializamos y consumimos nuestros alimentos. La FAO trabaja día a día junto a sus socios y aliados para transformar los sistemas agroalimentarios de América Latina y el Caribe. Te invitamos a conocer proyectos que dejan huella en temáticas como educación alimentaria, economía circular, digitalización rural inclusiva, acción anticipatoria y mucho más. Regístrate y participa en la Feria FAO Transforma 2024. Construyamos juntas y juntos un futuro mejor. Global challenges require profound transformation in the way we produce, market, and consume our food. FAO works daily alongside its partners and allies to improve agri-food systems in Latin America and the Caribbean. We invite you to discover projects that make a difference in topics like food education, circular economy, inclusive rural digitalization, anticipatory action, and much more. Register and participate in the FAO Transforms 2024 Fair. Let's build a better future together. Los desafíos globales requieren transformaciones profundas en la forma en que producimos, comercializamos y consumimos nuestros alimentos. La FAO trabaja día a día junto a sus socios y aliados para transformar los sistemas agroalimentarios de América Latina y el Caribe. Te invitamos a conocer proyectos que dejan huella en temáticas como educación alimentaria, economía circular, digitalización rural inclusiva, acción anticipatoria y mucho más. Regístrate y participa en la Feria FAO Transforma 2024. Construyamos juntas y juntos un futuro mejor. Global challenges require profound transformation in the way we produce, market, and consume our food. FAO works daily alongside its partners and allies to improve agri-food systems in Latin America and the Caribbean. We invite you to discover projects that make a difference in topics like food education, circular economy, inclusive rural digitalization, anticipatory action, and much more. Register and participate in the FAO Transforms 2024 Fair. Let's build a better future together. Los desafíos globales requieren transformaciones profundas en la forma en que producimos, comercializamos y consumimos nuestros alimentos. La FAO trabaja día a día junto a sus socios y aliados para transformar los sistemas agroalimentarios de América Latina y el Caribe. Te invitamos a conocer proyectos que dejan huella en temáticas como educación alimentaria, economía circular, digitalización rural inclusiva, acción anticipatoria y mucho más. Regístrate y participa en la Feria FAO Transforma 2024. Construyamos juntas y juntos un futuro mejor. Global challenges require profound transformation in the way we produce, market, and consume our food. FAO works daily alongside its partners and allies to improve agri-food systems in Latin America and the Caribbean. We invite you to discover projects that make a difference in topics like food education, circular economy, inclusive rural digitalization, anticipatory action, and much more. Register and participate in the FAO Transforms 2024 Fair. Let's build a better future together.
de nuestro break para continuar
We're back from our
explorando
break to
experiencias
continue
inspiradoras
exploring
en esta tercera
inspiring
edición de la
experiences
Feria
in
FAO
this third
Transforma Fair.
edition of
Ya tuvimos el honor
FAO
de conocer
Transform
proyectos
Fair. We
transformadores en
have
el
already
marco de
had
una
the honor
mejor
of learning
producción
about
y
transformative
ahora
projects
pasaremos
within
al
the
siguiente
framework of
grupo de
better
experiencias que se
production,
enmarcan
and
en
now
una
we will move
mejor
on to the
nutrición.
next group of experiences
En
within
línea
the
con el marco
framework of
estratégico
better
de la
nutrition.
FAO, el
In line
área
with
de
the
mejor
FAO's
nutrición busca
strategic framework,
erradicar
the
el
better
hambre y
nutrition
mejorar
area
la
seeks to
nutrición en
eradicate hunger
todas sus
and improve
formas.
nutrition in all of
El
its
enfoque
forms.
prioriza la
This
promoción de
approach
dietas saludables,
prioritizes the
asegurando el
promotion of
acceso a
healthy
alimentos
diets,
nutritivos
ensuring
y
access
eliminando
to
la
nutritious
inseguridad
food, and
alimentaria en las
eliminating food
poblaciones
insecurity in
vulnerables.
vulnerable
Además,
populations.
se centra
It
en la
also
inocuidad
focuses
alimentaria a
on
través de
food
políticas
safety or
integradas y en la
security through
reducción de la
integrated
pérdida y
policies
desperdicio de
and on
alimentos
reducing food
y la
loss and
promoción de una
waste.
mayor
Promoting
transparencia
greater
y equidad en los
transparency and
mercados
equity
alimentarios.
in food
En esta
markets.
ocasión,
On this
conoceremos
occasion,
dos
we will
destacadas
learn about two
iniciativas. En
outstanding
Barbados,
initiatives. In
exploraremos cómo la
Barbados, we
FAO, a
will
través del
explore
instrumento
how
de
the FAO,
contribuciones
through the
voluntarias flexibles,
flexible
está
voluntary
transformando
contributions
desechos
instrument,
pesqueros en
is
valiosos
transforming the
recursos para la
fisheries
agricultura y
waste
la
into
alimentación
valuable
animal,
resources for
promoviendo una
agriculture
economía
and
circular y
animal
mejorando
feed,
la
promoting a
sostenibilidad del
circular
sector
economy and
agroalimentario.
improving
Luego,
the sustainability
conoceremos
of the
una
agri-food
iniciativa de la
sector.
FAO
Then we will
junto con
see
la
how
Agencia
the
Brasileña de
FAO,
Cooperación
together with the
y el Fondo
Brazilian
Nacional de
Cooperation
Desarrollo de la
Agency and the
Educación,
National
para
Fund for
fortalecer los
Education
programas de
Development, is
alimentación escolar en
strengthening
Brasil,
school feeding
El
programs in
Salvador,
Brazil, El
Honduras,
Salvador,
Perú y República
Honduras, Peru,
Dominicana,
and the
mediante la
Dominican Republic
capacitación de
by
docentes y la
training
creación de
educators and
ambientes alimentarios
creating
saludables en las
healthy food
escuelas.
environments
Les
in
recuerdo que la
schools.
dinámica
I
será la
remind
misma
you
que en
that
el
the
primer bloque.
dynamic will be the same
Damos
as
nuestra
in the
más cordial
previous
bienvenida a
block.
los panelistas que
We
nos acompañan
welcome
virtualmente en este
the
bloque y les
panelists who are
agradecemos por su
joining
tiempo y
us in this
disposición a
block, and
colaborar en
thank you
esta
for
feria.
your time and willingness to
Pasemos por
collaborate in
favor
this
al
fair.
video de la primera
Let's
experiencia
proceed with
sobre
the first
economía
video
circular en
of
Barbados.
the circular economy in Barbados.
Has led to several key results. An informed In the fisheries sector, women play a crucial role, primarily in processing and marketing. However, these operations generate significant waste of products such as heads, tails, bones, and guts. It is estimated that 8 tons of such waste are produced daily in Barbados. Almost all of this waste is dumped in landfills, causing significant environmental damage and missing the opportunity for additional income for families. In 2020, FAO launched a circular economy initiative to reintroduce this waste to the wider agro-ecosystem as competitive feed ingredients for livestock and agriculture, as well as soil amendments. This initiative addresses rising grain prices and feed costs, which account for over 70% of the cost of production, making local meat unaffordable for many consumers. This initiative was supported by the Ministries of Environment and Fisheries, Agriculture and Youth, along with strong national and sub-regional partnerships with a participatory intersectoral approach. This has strengthened the interventions under the Sustainable, Resilient and Inclusive Food Systems Development Program. The initiative has led to several key results: an informed 2023-2033 fisheries policy, the training of 20 women fish processors and 25 young farmers in fish silage and ensuing products manufacturing, the establishment of a national fish silage platform, and the attraction of private investment and additional resources for upscaling. The project catalyzes change by strengthening capacities, fostering connections between private and public sectors, and significantly ensuring supportive policies and increased investments, paving the way for a more sustainable and resilient future.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very
Muy
much.
interesante la
Very
experiencia en
interesting
Barbados que
experience
demuestra
in
cómo la
Barbados, which
reducción de la dependencia
demonstrates
en
how
confesiones
reducing
alimentarias
dependence on
ha
food
logrado
imports
mejorar
has
significativamente la
significantly
resiliencia
improved the
económica y
economic and
nutricional del país.
nutritional resilience of the
Para que
country.
reflexionemos sobre
This
los impactos, desafíos y
In order
aprendizajes que nos
to
deja este
think
proyecto,
about the
nos
impacts,
acompañarán
challenges, and lessons
Yvette
learned, Yvette DA
oficial de
Ouadi,
Pesca y Acuicultura de la
Fisheries and
Oficina
Aquaculture Officer
Subregional de la
of the
FAO para el Caribe,
FAO
y
Subregional
Festus
Office for the Caribbean, and
Alquinifesi,
Festus
coordinador principal
Akini
de la
Fezi,
Dirección de
Senior
Movilización de
Coordinator, Resource
Recursos y Asociaciones
Mobilization
con
and
el sector
Private
privado de la
Sector
FAO.
Partnerships Division
Muchísimas
of
gracias
the
a ambos
FAO
por
will be
estar
with
aquí.
with us.
Comencemos.
Thank you very much for being here.
Yvette,
Let's start.
¿puedes
Yvette,
escucharnos?
can you listen to us? Are you listening?
Yes,
Can you hear us?
I hear you very well. Do you hear me?
Sí, también te
Thank you.
escucho. Muchas
Yes.
gracias, Yvette.
Yes, Yvette, thank you very much.
Yvette, en consonancia
Yvette,
con los
in
esfuerzos
line
por
with the
aumentar la
efforts to increase
visibilidad de
the
la pesca y
visibility
la
of
acuicultura
small-scale
en pequeña
fisheries
escala
and
en las agendas de
aquaculture
desarrollo
in
nacionales,
national
¿cómo
development
ha
agendas,
contribuido este
how
proyecto
has
en
this
Barbados a
project in
posicionar
Barbados
estos
contributed
sectores en
to
el centro de la
positioning
agenda
these
pública?
sectors at the center of the public agenda?
Thank you. Thanks for the question. You know, as we all know, the lack of information or limited data and information, the value and the contribution of a sector lead to the actors of being invisible, overlooked. And as a result, they have a poor representation in policy debate, or they cannot even influence the policy direction. And that means that their aspiration, their needs, their priorities will be disregarded as well. The merit of this project actually was to cast a light on the triple value benefit for these, I will say, golden opportunities, but untapped opportunities that are represented by fish waste, waste raw material from the fish processing. And these triple benefit and these triple value benefit are income streams, the natural resources sustainability, lifting the burden on the environment as well. And this, knowing that the small scale fishes and aquaculture, they are the largest generator for these golden opportunities, was very I would say very instrumental in positioning them when the fishery policy in Barbados was being developed, because that is a context. The policy was being developed, it started in 2020, let's say. So the project provided these data and information about the value of the importance of transforming these waste from into product that will be useful for the country. So understanding this as a position them, I will say, and then we are in the subsequent national consultations. They were well positioned, definitely, to the extent of mainstreaming in the pillar 4 of the policy, the essential value addition to waste. Thanks.
¿Ahora sí? Perfecto. Bueno, muchísimas
Well,
gracias,
thank you
Yvette,
very
por tus
much, Yvette,
interesantes
for your
reflexiones.
interesting
Y en línea
thoughts.
con esto,
And
ahora
in
me
line with
gustaría
this, I would
proceder
like
con
to
Festus.
proceed with Festus.
Hola, Festus, ¿nos
Hello,
puedes escuchar
Festus.
bien?
Can you listen to us well?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias a ti por estar
Thank you very
presente el
much,
día de hoy.
Festus, for being with
Y
us
tenemos la
today.
siguiente pregunta.
And we have this
El mecanismo
question.
de contribuciones
The
voluntarias flexibles de la FAO ha
FAO
sido
Flexible
fundamental al
Voluntary
proporcionar
Contributions Facility
financiamiento
has been
flexible y no
instrumental in
asignado,
providing
lo que
flexible
permite a
and
la FAO apoyar iniciativas
unremarked
innovadoras en todo
funding,
el
which
mundo.
allows FAO
¿Cómo
to
ha
support
permitido
innovative
este modelo de
initiatives around the
financiamiento
world. How has this
flexible la
flexible
implementación de
funding
proyectos
model enabled
transformadores
the
como el de
implementation
Barbados,
of
que se
transformative
enfoca en
projects such
reintroducir
as
los
the
desechos
one
de
in
pescado en
Barbados,
el
which
agroecosistema?
focuses on reintroducing fish waste into the agroecosystem?
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, the organizer, for inviting me to be part of this very exciting event. To be brief, it is important to mention that the flexible voluntary contribution, formerly known as a flexible flexible multi-partner mechanism, FMM, is a multi-donor and multi-partner initiative, a pool funding instrument. I hope you're hearing me. Are you hearing me?
Sí, Festus, te
Yes,
escuchamos
okay.
perfecto.
We listen to you perfectly.
So I was saying that it is a pool funding instrument that helps to provide flexible funds to support FAO's work and its priorities. And so far, the FVC has funded over 135 projects implementing work in more than 100 countries, and also impacting on hundreds of thousands of beneficiaries, especially in developing countries. This fund has provided seed funds, that is a small fund to start projects, to several FAO's priority initiatives, especially those that were critically underfunded. And these must also be those that are innovative. It involves several flagship FAO's projects that now have even grown to become something big, contributing to transformative change. We have several examples of this. Work on resilient food systems, in which this project is part of, the Sustainable Food and Agriculture, SFA, or climate smart agriculture issues, or climate change adaptation and mitigation in several countries, biodiversity, blue growth initiatives, work on digital agriculture and innovation, hand in hand, youth employment, social protection, gender and women empowerment, farmer fiscal, etc. To cut it short, FVC has been supporting several innovations across the organization, including this one. This is a very exciting and excellent example of the support. Let me stop there. I will comment further later. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Festus.
Thank you very
Muy
much,
interesante lo que nos
Festus.
comentas.
Very
Entonces,
interesting what you are
ahora en relación con
commenting.
esto, nos
Now, with
gustaría
respect to this, we would
preguntarte
like to
cuáles son las
ask you,
principales
what
ventajas de este
are the
enfoque
main
de financiamiento
advantages of
flexible
this
para
flexible
impulsar el
funding
desarrollo
model in
sostenible
order
y
to
lograr
boost
impactos
sustainable
catalizadores,
development and have
particularmente en la atención
catalytic
de necesidades
impact,
urgentes como
and
la seguridad
particularly in
alimentaria
addressing
y la
urgent needs
resiliencia
such as food
climática?
security and climate resilience?
Thank you very much. The advantages of FVC are many. I will just enumerate a few of them. First, to FAO, for instance, it offers the opportunity to catalyze and leverage additional funds. That is, we provide seed fund, starter fund, that could be used to leverage additional funds, additional capacity, resources, partnerships, and other resources to achieve greater impact. That's the first thing. Also, because of the flexibility of the FVC, it allows FAO's implementing units to quickly respond to opportunities and to make adjustments as they see or deem fit, especially during times of unforeseen changes, such as the time of COVID, for instance. With FVC, it was possible to respond to the situation in terms of the response and recovery of COVID-19. Several of FVC's support address those, and we actually had specific supports to the COVID-19 response and recovery. And because it is a pooled fund, it offers FAO the flexibility to prioritize support. That is, it does not matter how much we get from any partner, because we're putting this together, we have the opportunity to allocate those to priorities of the organization and use the funds where they are most needed. But to the donors, the advantages are also that it gives them the opportunity to contribute to a larger picture, to achieve larger impact. A partner can contribute very little, but the benefit or credit is for the whole outcomes. Also for the partners contributing to the FVC, they are contributing to what we call the Global Funding Compact. The Global Funding Compact, which also helps to support the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in the context of the UN Development System. Also, because of the pool funding mechanism, FAO is able to coherently support work, and the donors also have donors coherence, which means the donors contributing to FVC will not need to have project managers for several small funds. All this can be managed as one by FVC, and they achieve bigger results. So in short, the donors get a bang for the buck. They get value for money for the money they contribute. And also for FAO, we're able to achieve catalytic impact and transformative change. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Festus.
Thank you very much, Festus. I think it's very clear that we have different advantages and opportunities with this type of funding. Now, in order to back to Yvette, Juan Manuel is asking from YouTube, what are the challenges faced by projects like this regarding scalability and how they could have a potential impact on the regional economies and national economies?
Oh, great question. It's commonly said that the best way to achieve a scaling up and sustainability is institutionalization, which this project has done for the fisheries policy, but also this integrated blue economy policy framework that is ongoing in Barbados. This being said, I will acknowledge that challenges still exist in similar projects. One that I will see, and if it's when a bridge has not been built right up front. In our project, it was essential in the pilot phase to plug in the end users. Our end users here are not the direct consumer. Our end users were the young farmers, livestock rearers, and crop farmers. So the value chain, or the core value chain actors, the fishers and the hand users were beneficiary for this project. So this will have been a challenge for a project which will not have thought of this. The next one is really obvious for all of our projects, especially in this region where you have external shocks. And the Hurricane Beryl is an example. And this is about the fish market dynamics remaining favorable or remaining conducive to the availability of for the rest raw material. If there is no fish, there won't be any processing of fish to generate waste to then upscale whatever we have secured during the pilot phase. So this is something that I see in terms of upscaling for this project. Beryl has disrupted a lot of the value chain here in Barbados, and we need to acknowledge this. It's maybe a challenge if there is no market, or there is no rest of raw material in terms of supply for the transformation of the into feed and fertilizer. The last just quickly, we are now seeing really since then a high interest from fishers or from farmers here. Those who were not involved and have heard this communication, they have been having this high interest. So being able to mobilize the level of resources that is commensurate to these high expectations may be something the project in the upscaling phase will have to face. So in a nutshell, these are the the 2-3 potential challenges I will see. Some of them have already been anticipated by the project, but similar others may face. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Yvette.
Thank you very much, Yvette. We totally agree. And in order to go back to the financing model regarding this project, Luis made the following question for Festus. How does this model ensure the continuity and sustainability of initiatives such as this one, allowing them to grow and generate the long-term regional benefits?
Thank you very much. This is a very good question and a common question also from other colleagues. And I would like to respond to it by saying that first thing I would like you to understand is that the FVC is not a traditional source of funding. It's not a project funding. It's not it's not money from one donor and so on. Its objective is not to support a particular project continuously or to see that it is sustainable. I would turn the question around and say that FVC, how will the funds provided by FVC help those that receive them to ensure sustainability? So putting the onus on the implementing units now, in a way. So normally for FVC, we are looking for fundable proposals that are based on merit, technical merit, whether it is result-oriented. How are the results changed, developed? Will it be able to achieve concrete results? And whether they are need-based, because some we can develop proposals that don't really have needs. So needs is very important. We also look at proposals that are underfunded, but they are very innovative. That is, they don't have other sources of funding, or they don't have enough funding to achieve their planned results. Those are some of the key elements. And of course, we can discuss that even in terms of the templates we use for this and call for proposals. It is FVC's funding is competitive. That is, we ask for calls for proposals from the global technical units at the headquarters here, to the regions and to the sub-regions. Then the executive committee of FVC make decisions based on the proposals submitted. So what it means is that it is possible for a very innovative work like this. This is an excellent work. I've commended the EVS and our team on this work. This is an excellent work. It is innovative. The next step is, how can you build on that? How can you showcase what you have done to leverage the achievements, not just to FVC, but to other donors? That's why I said we put the onus in burden, task back to the implementing units to say, you have achieved excellent results. How can you use that to get additional funds? There is the implicit meaning that if the work is good, other donors will be interested to support it. That's what it means. But at the same time, we're happy to support work that is very good like this if it can be packaged and maybe proposals can be developed and competed with other applicants. There is chance that it can be funded. But we don't really guarantee that there is continuous funds for the same project. There are several of FVC's funded projects that have received funds repeatedly, because they are good, because they are well showcased, and because they are also proactive in submitting proposals. So there is no yes or no to this. Just to let you know that. But we encourage that building on what you have achieved to leverage additional resources, additional capacity, additional partnerships and also money from other donors is the best way to go. And lastly, to mention, because FV supports work at different levels, we provide funds to technical divisions, to PPAs, program priority areas. We provide funds to regions and sub-regions. What some other very innovative PPAs, regions and sub-regions can do or have been doing is to take money from different projects funded to them and use that to focus on those that are underfunded. So that can also be done. For instance, the work on fisheries and agriculture, that's one of our largest area of support at the headquarters, blue growth initiatives, etc. So there, and also the food systems work that Evia is talking about. We have been actually funding that now for several years, and it will continue to be funded because the priority work. The fishery work is a priority work to many of our donors as well. Let me stop there, and if there are further follow-up, I will be happy. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, Ivette
Thank
y
you very
Festus,
much,
por esta
Yvette
interesante
and
discusión
Festus, for
que
this
releva no
interesting
solo los beneficios de
discussion that
implementar un modelo
involves
de
not only
economía
the
circular,
benefits
sino
of
que también los
implementing a
principales
circular
desafíos
economy
que
model,
enfrentamos
but
como
also the
región
main
para asegurar la
challenges that we
sostenibilidad y
face as
escalabilidad.
region in order to
Pero antes
ensure
de seguir con esta
sustainability and
emocionante discusión,
scalability.
les
But
propongo que
before
pasemos a conocer el
continuing with
segundo
this
proyecto de
interesting
este bloque.
discussion, we would like to know
Vamos,
the
por favor, con el
other
video que
project
presenta
of this block.
la
We're going
evaluación
to see the video of
en
the
educación y
evaluation of
alimentaria
the
y nutricional.
diploma on nutritional.
En 2019, el Diplomado en Educación Alimentaria y Nutricional, pionero en su tipo, reunió a 167 profesionales de El Salvador, Honduras, Perú y República Dominicana. El curso se orientó al diseño e implementación de acciones concretas de esta temática en ámbitos escolares. La iniciativa fue impulsada por la Agencia Brasileña de Cooperación, el Fondo Nacional de Desarrollo de la Educación y la FAO en el marco del Programa de Cooperación Internacional Brasil-FAO en alianza con FAO Campus. Tras 4 años, el diplomado dio origen a un estudio sobre las experiencias, lecciones aprendidas y sus efectos en la alimentación escolar de cada país. El estudio reveló importantes hallazgos. La mejora del ambiente alimentario escolar con actividades de sensibilización y el desarrollo de huertos, y el rol clave de la educación alimentaria y nutricional para generar conciencia entre los estudiantes. El diplomado produjo efectos multiplicadores. A nivel institucional, impulsó la creación de otros procesos de capacitación. Entre los participantes, promovió diálogos sobre la contribución de la alimentación escolar para la reducción del hambre y el desarrollo de sistemas agroalimentarios sostenibles. Entre las familias, fomentó prácticas de alimentación saludable en los hogares. Además, permitió impulsar entornos más favorables para consolidar programas de alimentación escolar, demostrando el valor estratégico de capacitar profesionales para fortalecer políticas públicas. Con esa acción, Brasil y la FAO avanzan hacia un futuro con una mejor nutrición y vida para los estudiantes de América Latina y el Caribe.
Muestra claramente el
This is
impacto
a
positivo
clear
y transformador del
example
fortalecimiento de los programas de
of the
alimentación
positive
escolar
impact
en
of
la seguridad
strengthening school
alimentaria.
feeding
Pero
programs.
antes de comenzar con
So
las
before
preguntas
we
para este
begin with the
proyecto, demos una
questions,
gran bienvenida
I
a
would like
Miriam
to
de
welcome
Oliveira,
Miriam de Oliveira.
asistente técnica del
She's
proyecto
technical
Agenda
assistant of
Regional
the
para la
Regional
Alimentación
Agenda
Escolar
Project for
Sostenible en
Sustainable
América
Food
Latina y
School
el Caribe,
Feeding in Latin
y
America
a
and the
Paola
Caribbean,
Barbieri,
and Paola
analista de
Barbieri,
proyectos de la
project
Agencia
analyst
Brasileña de
of the
Cooperación.
Brazilian Agency for
Buenos días,
Cooperation.
Miriam. ¿Puedes
Good morning,
escucharme?
Miriam. Can you hear us?
Sí,
Good
¿cómo estás?
morning. Yes, I can hear you.
Perfecto.
Y todas.
Muchas
Good
gracias,
morning.
Miriam. Todo bien por
Thank you very
acá y
much.
muchas gracias por acompañarnos.
And thank you for being
Tenemos la
here with
siguiente
us.
pregunta para ti.
We have the
Esta
following
iniciativa
question
pone
for
en
you.
evidencia
This
los efectos
initiative
que tiene el
highlights the
desarrollo
effects
de
that developing
capacidades en materia
capacities
de
in school
alimentación escolar.
feeding matters has.
¿Cuáles son las
What are
principales
the main
lecciones
lessons
aprendidas de este
learned from
proyecto?
this project?
Eh, eh, Antes que todo, me gustaría agradecer la
Before, I would
oportunidad
like to thank
de participar de esta feria porque
the
creemos
capacity
en el
to
proyecto
participate
que
in this fair
la
because we
dinámica de
believe
diálogo
that
y
the dynamic of
intercambio
dialogue, of
genera un
exchange of
poco más allá
experiences generates
conocimientos y eso
knowledge, and
establecido
it's
en nuestra región
what is
las políticas
established in the
públicas
region, the
para que
public
tengamos
policies, so we can have
en la región de América Latina,
in
del
the Latin
Caribe,
American
quizás
region and in the
una
Caribbean
mejor
and in the world,
producción, una
we can
mejor
have a better
alimentación,
production,
un mejor medio
a
ambiente,
better
una mejor vida
environment and a better livelihood for all. And this is a very important space to generate significant changes in the life of our population. In terms of the lessons learned from this project, we say that the trainings of professionals at different levels of government and of the others involved stakeholders in school feeding have guaranteed the sustainability of the programs from concepts, guidelines, the dialogue and the exchange. These stakeholders involved and they have the knowledge, they receive the training, and we are working and strengthening the dialogue, the policies, and the school feeding programs. So we created in the region through the diploma and the trainings, we created a network of people that have understood the importance of guaranteeing school feeding as a human right for our students. School feeding that moves more than the simple offering of food, but with quality, with nutrition for each student, depending on their age and needs, food needs. So these are one of the lessons learned, the need to have stakeholders that are involved and to train them to understand the process and the dynamic of the school feeding programs. Thank you very much.
Perfecto. Miriam, muchas gracias
Thank
por
you,
tu
Miriam. Perfect.
conocimientos que
Thank
hoy
you
día
for
nos
your
compartes.
knowledge that you're
Y en
sharing with
relación
us.
con esto, ahora
And
nos
in
gustaría
relation with
conocer
this, I would
la
like to
perspectiva y el
know
rol que ha
the
cumplido la
perspective
Agencia
and the
Brasileña de
role that the
Cooperación.
global,
Así que me
the
gustaría proceder con
Brazilian
Paola.
agency has
Buenas
had.
tardes,
I would like
Paola.
to
¿Cómo
proceed
estás?
with Paola. Paola, good afternoon. How are you? Very
Me
well,
alegro
thank
mucho,
you.
Paola.
I'm very
Bienvenida.
happy.
Y
Welcome,
ahora
Paola.
te comento que tenemos la siguiente
And
pregunta
we
para
have
ti.
the following question for
Brasil
you.
ha desempeñado un papel
Brazil has
clave
played
en
a
la
key
coalición
role
mundial
in
y en
global
iniciativas
coalitions
regionales
at
de
regional
alimentación
school
escolar.
feeding
¿Cómo
initiatives.
contribuye la
How does
colaboración
joint
conjunta en la
collaboration
región
in the
a
region
enfrentar los
contribute
desafíos
to
comunes de
addressing the common
alimentación y nutrición
challenges
escolar?
of school
¿Qué
feeding and
rol tiene la
nutrition?
cooperación multilateral en el
What role
éxito de
does
estas
multilateral
iniciativas?
cooperation play in these initiatives of success? First of all, thank you very much for the participation in this event. It's the second time that we're here, and I speak on behalf of Angela and the National Fund of Development of Brazil. In fact, Brazil is at a very crucial moment for food security. We have a very scenario for the development of several initiatives, and I would like to tell you some of this, that truly we are based in this. So the first initiative that I would like to speak about is about the Food School Feeding Coalition. It's a world movement for global school feeding that has Brazil. And it's part of this coalition and the objective that until 2030, all the boys and girls will have the opportunity to have at least nutritional food. Now we have 100 members in this coalition, and we have more than 120 social organizations that are part of this. The secretariat of the coalition is the FAO. Another thing that I would like to speak, it's very important in this international role, is the Alliance Against Famine and Poverty that it's developed in the G20 scope. Brazil, as president, is now in November, is going to launch formally this important alliance. School feeding is one of the important policies that would be shared in this space. Also, you all know well in the scope of our project, the network of sustainable school feeding that can be sustainable. Now we have more than 26 countries that are participating, and we are doing also additional, including other countries, and we're presenting attention. FAO, we have a very important space to share good practices and exchange of good experiences. Finally, I would like to also speak about another joint program that we are developing and will begin later on. It's a program of the Brazilian government with the 3 United Nations agencies that are in Rome. It's FAO, FAO, and FIDA and FEMIA, whose objective is to work as school feeding linked to family agriculture from the regional approach. There we have a pilot project in Kenya and Africa, and another one in Latin America. So the idea of collaboration is very important in these initiatives, and the good practices in all the countries are key elements to face challenges and promote necessary changes that we want to see. Thank you.
Perfecto. Paola, muchas
Perfect,
gracias
Paola.
por
Thank
tus
you very
comentarios.
much for your
Queda claro
comments.
que Brasil ha jugado un
It's
papel
clear
clave en ese
that Brazil
sentido.
has taken a
Y
key
bueno, ahora
role
volviendo con
in this
Miriam, nos
sense.
gustaría
Now, going back with
profundizar un poco más
Miriam, we would like
nuevamente
to
en este
deepen
proyecto y
more in
preguntar
this
qué
project
efectos a
and
mediano
ask
plazo
you,
han
what
observado las
medium-term
escuelas y
effects have
comunidades
you
a
observed
partir
in the
de esta
schools and
formación.
communities as a result of this training?
Son muchos efeitos positivos
There are
que se
many
observam
positive effects that we
desde
observe.
2009.
Since
La cooperação Brasil
2009,
FAO vem impulsando,
Brazilian FAO
fortalecendo o programa de
cooperation
alimentação escolar na
is
região.
strengthening
Então, de
the
maneira
school feeding program in the
importante,
region. So
que
these
vai
changes
se mostrando muito significativos.
are
E a
being
partir desse
significant.
projeto, desta
And from
formação,
this project from this training, what do we
se quedou
see?
muito claro com
And this is very
estudo do
clear
egresso
in
que
the
o projeto
study
realizou em parceria
that
com
the
o FAO
project
Campus.
together
De que estamos hablando?
with FAO, what are we
De uma
speaking about?
melhoria
Of an
em
improvement
ambiente alimentar
in
escolar,
the food
não só
environment
nas
at the
escolas,
schools,
pero também
not
no
only at the
entorno escolar,
schools, but
a
also
partir da
in
formação
the
dos
environment. From the
tanto os
training
alunos
that we
recebem
offer,
também
the
esse
children
conhecimento mais
receive
grande e
this
importante
knowledge
direto à
that is
vida,
important, that can change their lives, of the need of having a healthier nutrition, and the children take this knowledge to their homes. Another effect that we can say is this diversity of the school menus. From the cooperation, we have showed the importance of having in the menus products that are offered by the small farmers. This is part of the cooperation that the students can have at their tables healthy food that are fresh, offered from the family agriculture. Another thing that we can observe is that people are trained and they turn into promoters of the ODS and from food security, education, health, environment. If we are more aware of the right for nutrition and the strengthening of the articulation mechanisms intersectorial and interinstitutional at all levels to promote public policies in the countries. And finally, and not less important, it mentions the multiplying effect of this learning. As I have said, this knowledge goes beyond the school environment. It goes beyond the school feeding policies that now we have as stakeholders and professionals in health and the environment. So it's very important, this aspect that the trainings bring that generate this network of people that are involved, understanding the training processes to generate spaces and more sustainable environments, policies that really reach the population. It really reached the students and the people that need it, and the rights of the people that need their rights can be guaranteed, especially the rights to proper nutrition. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Miriam.
Thank you very much,
Muy
Miriam.
interesante todo lo que
Very
nos
interesting what you
Y
tell
en
us.
relación a esto que has ido
And regarding
señalando, nos
this that you
gustaría
have
preguntarte
mentioned,
si
I
podrías
would like to
contarnos
ask
cómo contribuyó la
how
evaluación del
did
diplomado que
the
elaboraron en
evaluation of the
conjunto con FAO
diploma
Campus
contribute to
a la
incorporate the
incorporación de
improvements
mejoras en los programas de alimentación
of
escolar o en
subsequent
ediciones
editions
posteriores del diplomado?
or later editions of the diploma?
Es importante mencionar que
It's
cuando se hace
important to mention
procesos formativos,
when
tú
you
ya
do
tienes
training
rol muy
processes,
grande.
you already have
Pero
a
el
very
diplomado,
important role.
tuvo
But the
aspecto un
diploma
poco diferente,
had a
que fue
different
contar con
aspect that
formación
was to
de
have
los
the
profesionales
training of the
gubernamentales de puestos
professional
permanentes.
of
Y
permanent
eso
positions
genera
in the
una
government.
gran
And this
sostenibilidad de la
generate a
acción.
great
Hoy en día
sustainability of the
sabemos
action,
que
because here we know
tenemos acá en
that
Brasil, por
from
ejemplo, de
time to
4 em
time, for
4 años
example, in
cambiam
Brazil,
os
every
gobiernos,
4 years, the
os
governments
gestores.
change
Pero
the
si
managers.
estos procesos
But if
formativos
these
son
training
ofrecidos
processes
a un
are
equipo
offered to
técnico
a technical
permanente
team
en
that
los
is
países,
permanent in
esa
the countries,
calificación permanece
this
salvo los
permanent
gobiernos
training
que cambien su
remains.
majestad
Maybe the
para
governments
que
change, but the
todos los
people remain
aprendizajes
there.
que
So
allí
all the
y aún
learning
más
remain.
puedan
And
fortalecer las
furthermore, they can
políticas y los programas
strengthen the
gubernamentales
policies and the
bajo una
government
visión más
programs
integrada,
under a
con
more
mayor alcance
comprehensive vision
estratégico y
with greater
territorial de las políticas, no
scope and
solo de alimentación
strategy, and
escolar,
the
sino
use of
como ya
not
hablamos de
only of
salud, de
school feeding,
educación, de
but
desarrollo
also in
social.
health, education, social
Todos estos
development,
actores
so that
relacionados
all the stakeholders of the educational community can guarantee the follow-up of the institutions. This is an important evaluation that we did. These people, besides the changes, they remain, they keep working for sustainable school feeding. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Miriam.
Thank you very much, Miriam.
Bueno, muy interesante.
Very,
Y
very interesting.
en algún momento
And at
se
some
señaló
moment,
el rol
you
que juega la
mentioned the
colaboración
role that
interministerial. Entonces,
interministerial
ahora
collaboration
nos
has.
gustaría
So
volver con
now
Paola
we would like to
para
go back with
preguntarle lo siguiente.
Paola to ask her
A
the
lo largo de los
following.
años ha
Over the
trabajado con
years,
varios
you
ministerios de
have worked with
educación en la región.
various ministries of
¿Cómo ha
education in the
fortalecido esta
region.
colaboración
How has this
interministerial los
interministerial
programas de
collaboration
alimentación
strengthened
escolar
school
y qué
feeding
papel
programs?
juega la alianza
And
con la
what role
FAO
does
en
partnership with
potenciar estas acciones
FAO play
conjuntas?
in enhancing these joint actions?
Sí, gracias. Entonces, creo que
Thank
en
you.
primer lugar es
I think that in
importante
first
hablar un
place, it's
poquito del
important to
proyecto de
speak
cooperación
about
de
the
Brasil
project
con FAO,
of cooperation
porque ahora
project with
estamos en el
Brazil
tercer ciclo
and
de este
FAO.
proyecto.
We are in the third
El
cycle
primer
of this
ciclo se
project.
enfocó
The
en
first
el
cycle
fortalecimiento de los
was in the
programas de alimentación
strengthening
escolar
of
con una duración de
school
unos
feeding
10
programs
años.
with a length of 10
Luego
years.
tuvimos la
Then
consolidación de
we
los
had the
programas de alimentación
consolidation
escolar
of the school feeding
cada 5
programs
años. Y ahora estamos ya en el
5 years
tercer
ago,
ciclo
and now we
de
are in
este
the third
proyecto
cycle of this project,
para que podamos
so
pensar
we
en una
can
agenda
think
regional
in a
de
regional
alimentación escolar
agenda for school
con las
feeding
prioridades
with the
de la región.
priorities of the region.
Respecto al segundo ciclo, muchas cosas
Regarding
se
the second
pasaron
cycle, many things
este
happen
proyecto. Y
in this
creo que
project,
la creación
And I think the creation of the network of sustainable school feeding was an important framework, and that this has provided the countries to be together to face challenges and find solutions to the problems that can be related with their programs of school feeding. So the people that participate in this network of school feeding are the ministries of education, the representatives of the ministries of education of the countries that are part of the network, and also the ministries of social development. And in some countries, school feeding is located. So I think this movement was very important for this change in information and to think throughout time. And I wanted to make a reference to the diploma. That is a project that was chosen for the fair. It had very important results also for our cooperation. The study that FAO in the training sector has done in this diploma said that 81% of people said that it improved the practices to promote food education and nutrition, and 95% recognize that the diploma had an impact in their personal livelihoods, contributing with healthier changes. And as Miriam says, I think that this diploma course was very important as a reference for cooperation in Brazil for new training processes and the project of tutors that is going on in the region. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos a nuestras panelistas
We
por sus
thank our
valiosas
panelists for their valuable reflection on this interesting experience that highlights the importance of promoting food education and nutrition at early ages to encourage healthy eating habits. Now let's go for a final reflection with our panelists. Since we only have 5 minutes for this section, we really appreciate highlighting only the most important ideas to share. Yvette, Miriam, I would like to ask a question regarding food security and the loss of waste. Both projects contribute for the food security. One through the reduction of food waste in Barbados, and the other one, the training of food feeding programs. How these initiatives are impacting the food security within the region, and why is it important to address food loss from different points of the supply chain?
Okay, thank you. I think this question has two parts. The first part regarding food security. I would say the project by supporting the availability of meat at a competitive price, it support food security. So this availability of meat to consumer is an important aspect to highlight. And this is done while the producer, that means the farmers or the fishers are reaping as well greater benefit from their business and with on a limited cost to the environment. But there is an important aspect I wish to highlight here. Food waste or transformation involve the use of local resources to produce feed and fertilizer that will have been imported. And this means a significant impact on the government import bill. By the way, in this region, in the CARICOM, there is this objective, this commitment for the head of a state to cut down this extra CARICOM large and sustainable food import bill by 25% at the Horizon 2025. So this project directly contribute to this food security at the national level and also at the regional level in terms of cutting down, contributing to cut down the food import bill. So it's contribute to food security. And the second aspect, I think you asked about the food loss and waste. I think this is important. Both projects, the way they approach this, at least from my part, this multi-pronged approach is essential because food loss and waste can occur at all stages of the value chain. So for fish, from the net up to the table of the consumer, and they are multidimensional, multifaceted. So so are their causes as well. So it is important when if we want to have a very inclusive, very comprehensive, a solution that will lead to resilient, sustainable, and equitable value agri-food system value chain, we need to have this to open up our lenses in looking for the best solution. So this is what this project have done in having this multi-pronged approach to the loss and waste and food security with the training aspect in terms of food, school feeding program that I see as a lot of opportunities for collaboration with our project because I see some similarities. So that's what I will say. So food security, national level and CARICOM level with the 25 by 25 commitment for all the government here, the project contribute to. Thank you.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias, Yvette. Ahora entonces
Thank you
le
very much,
invitamos
Yvette.
a
Now
Miriam,
we
por
would like
favor,
to
a
invite
que
Miriam
conteste la
so
pregunta.
you can answer the question.
Gracias. Bien.
Thank you very much.
Impactos en la seguridad alimentaria.
Impacts in food security that we can mention through this cooperation. The school feeding has been proposed as a right for all the students eat, and this changed everything. From the training processes that we have developed in the region, we observe that the technical staff, they see that school feeding program as a public expenditure, but not as an investment in human, social, economic development of population. And this helps the food security of these people, of the students, and maybe of the farmers that sell food for the school feeding program. So this guarantees food security, the vision of school feeding as a human right. In terms of wastes, of food wastes, of food loss, we can say that the training processes, whether with professional technicians, parents, students, this reduces the losses and the waste from the knowledge and the training that we offer to the people that participate in these processes. And we believe that education and the knowledge is like a seed that we plant in each mind and in each heart. And throughout time, this seed grows, flowers, and it grows in the people. So the importance of the training processes is to change the reality of people. And there is a Brazilian educator that has taught us that education, that knowledge does not change the world, but changes the people that are going to change the world. So if we train these people, we are working for food security and to reduce food waste and maybe contributes to the eradication and that this to diminish poverty in our region and in the world. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, colegas, por
Thank
su
you very
tiempo
much,
y también
colleagues,
por
for
sus
your
aportes a la
time and
reflexión de
your
este segundo bloque orientado a
contributions to
garantizar
this second
una mejor
group
nutrición.
aimed at
Antes de
ensuring a better
finalizar con este
nutrition.
bloque, les
Before
invito a que
concluding,
escuchemos a
I
Ana
invite
María
you to
García,
listen to Ana Maria
especialista en gestión
Garcia,
de proyectos
a
de sistemas
specialist in project
agroalimentarios
management of
nutricionales.
agri-good food systems and
Bienvenida,
food
Ana María.
security.
¿Puedes escucharnos?
Welcome, Ana Maria. Can you hear
Gracias,
us?
sí, te escucho fuerte y claro. ¿Me
Yes,
escuchas
thank you
bien?
very much. I hear you.
Sí, te escuchamos perfectamente.
We
Tienes la
can hear you
palabra.
close. You have the
Mil
floor.
gracias. Bueno, en primera
Thank you
instancia
very
quisiera
much.
expresar a modo
First of
personal
all,
por
I would
parte del
like
equipo
to say,
de trabajo de
on
mejoramiento de la
behalf of
FAO,
the work
la
team of nutrition
felicitaciones
in
a los
FAO, the
organizadores por este
congratulations to
evento
the
que permitió
organizers for
reflejar
this
los
event
resultados de las
that
múltiples
allows to
iniciativas
reflect
y
the
esfuerzos de
results of the
FAO y sus
multiple
socios.
initiatives and
Asimismo,
FAO and
extender
its
agradecimiento a los
partners.
panelistas y socios
Likewise,
de
to
recursos
thank the
por sus
panelists
presentaciones y su continuo
for their
apoyo en hacer estos
presentations and the
esfuerzos realidad
continued
en
support
beneficio de las
in doing
comunidades de la
this
región.
reality and
Como
benefiting
parte
the
de las
communities of the
reflexiones del
region.
bloque, pues
As
ya
part of
sabemos
the
que en el mundo,
reflection of the
especialmente en esta
blog,
región, en
we
América
know
Latina
that
y el
in the
Caribe,
world, especially
el
in
costo
Latin
para
America and
acceder
the
al alimento se ha
Caribbean,
incrementado
the
de manera
cost to have
importante en los
access
últimos
to food
años,
has increased
debido
in an
en
important way in the
consecuencia del
last
aumento
years
de los precios de
due to
insumos y
the
la producción
increase of
agropecuaria.
the
Dicha
input
situación hace que haya un
levels for
riesgo elevado
agriculture.
de que las
So this
personas
creates
no
a
puedan
high
acceder a
risk that
alimentos
the people
nutritivos
cannot have
y por
access
ende
to
hay una
nutritious food,
predisposición a tener una
and there is a
alimentación inadecuada,
predisposition to
tanto en
have an
grandes
inadequate
como en los
food,
niños, ¿no?
both in
Ante
children
este
and
contexto,
adults. In
considero que en
this
experiencias
context,
como la
I
realizada en
consider
Barbados es
with
altamente
experience
valuable,
and
ya que esta
with the
iniciativa
experience of Barbados
promueve
that has
y
been very
permite a las
valuable
comunidades
because
mejorar sus medios
this
de vida y
initiative
favorecer las
allows
experiencias,
the
ya sea
communities
disminuyendo
to
peso
improve their livelihoods,
o disminuyendo el costo
generating
de
income
producción
or
o disminuyendo
diminishing
costos
cost of
locales
production,
y usando de manera
taking
eficiente
advantage of
los
local
recursos
resources,
naturales o
and using in a
actualmente
responsible
diversificando la
way
producción,
the
lo cual se
local
constituye una
resources or
alternativa de acceso a
diversifying
los
production,
alimentos en una
which
región en la que
helps
muchas
in the
veces los
region. And
alimentos
many
están
times the
supeditados a los
food
procesos de
are
importación.
subject to import
En general,
processes.
las experiencias que
In
han sido
general, the
relatadas en este
experiences that have
bloque
been
demuestran
told in
que
this
la
blog
efectividad de
show
la
that the
transformación de los sistemas
efficiency of the
agroalimentarios, en el
transformation
que
of
pequeñas
agricultural
innovaciones pueden
systems where
generar
small
prolongados tiempos de
innovations
resultados.
can
Y
generate
mejor
throughout
aún,
time big
como lo
results
mencionaba
and
Iván
better,
en su
even
presentación, si
more
se genera
better.
un triple impacto positivo, como
We
es en el
can
caso
see
de
a
este
triple
proyecto de Barbados, en el que
impact
el
like
proyecto permitió
Barbados, where the
generar
project
resultados
allowed to
económicos al
generate
reducir costos de
economic
producción
results,
en el sector
reduce cost of
agropecuario,
production
mejorar la
in
accesibilidad
agriculture, to
local,
improve the
generar
local
alianzas entre el
economy,
sector público y
to
privado para
generate
promover
alliances
iniciativas
in
de
the
inversión,
public-private sector to
también
promote
generar un impacto
investment,
social al
and
proyectar
create
nuevas
also a
alternativas de
social
negocio e
impact,
involucrar a las
having new
mujeres
alternative
y
of
un impacto ambiental
businesses
al
involving
disminuir y
women,
aprovechar los
and
residuos de suficiente
environmental
peso
impact
para
by
otros fines
reducing
productivos.
the
En el caso
waste
del
that
proyecto
goes
del
to the
diplomado de
sea.
educación
In the case
alimentaria
of
escolar,
the
se
food
pone en evidencia
diploma
el valor de las
certificate,
opciones de alimentación
there is
escolar
the
para
evidence
construir de
of
manera
these
integrada
projects to
entornos
build
alimentarios saludables,
safe
puesto que el
school
intercambio
feeding
de experiencias
environments
y
because
lecciones
the
aprendidas
exchange
en los
of
países
experiences and
participantes
lesson learned
permite
in the
que puedan
participating
consolidarse
countries
iniciativas efectivas,
allow to
promoviendo
have
efectos multiplicadores
efficient initiatives with
tanto en la
multiplying
educación
effects
nutricional y en el uso
both
de
in
guarderías
nutritional
escolares
education
como herramienta
and
para
in
la
the
educación y
schools
la
of
garantization de la
school
agricultura.
feeding to value
Estas
also
acciones han tenido
agriculture.
efectos
These
más allá de
sections
las
have
aulas,
had
como bien lo
effects
mencionaba nuestra
beyond
colega
the
Miriam,
schools, as
en
our
el que lo
colleague
aprendido en
Miriam
las
mentioned,
escuelas se hace
that they
efectivamente
learn from
replicable
the
en la casa
schools,
y en los entornos
and what they
escolares,
learn in the
que a
school
futuro
is
traerá
efficient,
consigo innumerables
and
beneficios
that
en los
this will
hábitos
take
alimenticios
innumerable
de los niños y de
benefits
sus familias,
of the children
en las
and their
capacidades de las
family
familias para
in the
producir eficientemente
capacities
sus propios alimentos y
to
en
have their
consecuencia
own
esto se verá
food,
reflejado en
and
la salud de sus personas.
this will be reflected
Es
in their head.
importante, considero
It's
que dichos
important
resultados sean evaluados a lo
that
largo
the
del tiempo
results
para
are
optimizar
valued
los procesos de
to
implementación de las
use
iniciativas,
this
acciones
and
eficientes
to
que
have
generen cambios en el
efficient
bienestar de
actions
las
that generate
comunidades
changes
y
in
a
the
futuro
communities
disminuir
and in the future to diminish malnutrition in all its forms. So now, as one of the participants asked, through one of the digital channels, the challenge is to take these initiatives beyond the initial context, to be able to replicate this in other countries to adapt it in their own context and to focus in the training in the people to ensure the sustainability of the processes and that all in the region can benefit of this progress and innovation. FAO and priority 2, which is to improve nutrition, will keep working together with the governments and partners to guarantee that everyone in Latin America and the Caribbean, we can have access to nutritional food and healthy. And this, on my behalf, thank you for all of you for your attention and
Muchas gracias, Ana
Thank you
María.
very much, Ana María, and thank our panelists for joining us today. We finished this first day. We invite you for tomorrow, September the 4th, for the second day of this fair for exchange of experiences in Latin America and the Caribbean. Tomorrow, the initiatives shall be framed within the Better Environment and Better Life pillar. We will also have an institutional support segment. You can check the website of the event if you want to know more about the experiences and share your thoughts on social networks using the hashtag FAO Transform Fair.
Los desafíos globales requieren transformaciones profundas en la forma en que producimos, comercializamos y consumimos nuestros alimentos. La FAO trabaja día a día junto a sus socios y aliados para transformar los sistemas agroalimentarios de América Latina y el Caribe. Te invitamos a conocer proyectos que dejan huella en temáticas como educación alimentaria, economía circular, digitalización rural inclusiva, acción anticipatoria y mucho más. Regístrate y participa en la Feria FAO Transforma 2024. Construyamos juntas y juntos un futuro mejor. Global challenges require profound transformation in the way we produce, market, and consume our food. FAO works daily alongside its partners and allies to improve agri-food systems in Latin America and the Caribbean. We invite you to discover projects that make a difference in topics like food education, circular economy, inclusive rural digitalization, anticipatory action, and much more. Register and participate in the FAO Transforms 2024 Fair. Let's build a better future together.